In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Get sad again.
The following program contains material of an enlightening nature. Open-mindedness is advised.
Today, I want you to open your mind.
I've almost come to the conclusion that the story is so damning that the mass of people can't deal with it.
We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques to get people actually to love their servitude.
We face a hostile ideology, global in scope, atheistic in character, ruthless in purpose, and insidious in method.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
To change the minds and the attitudes and the beliefs of the people of the world, and especially the United States, to bring about one world socialist totalitarian government.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
As you connect the dots between different people, organizations, places, religions, history, suddenly the picture starts to form. You don't connect the dots. It's just a mass of what's all this about.
The kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure.
Someone born in the United States is not more special than someone born in Mexico. Someone who is white is not more special than someone who is black. They're just vehicles for the consciousness to experience.
Brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people.
War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength.
Humans as a species are prone to amnesia. Those who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it. It is thus imperative that these all-important matters be thoroughly explored and not left up to blind faith.
It's about time some of you got acquainted with the real hard truth.
What you are now experiencing is the vibration of air particles being transformed into electrical signals by your senses and DNA, then sent to the brain where they are decoded into sound. I'm your host, Ryan Gable, and you are listening to The Secret Teachings. Today on the show, Conformity in Society and the Trickster in relationship to false flag terror and the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. We will also get into current events today. You know, one of the things that's really bugged me recently is people who constantly shove their beliefs down your throat, or they shove them in your face while not being accepting of yours. So there's really not a mutual respect for one another, and I'm finding it more and more as society seemingly breaks down before our eyes, at least here in the United States. I don't know what you think about that, but this is my personal experience on a daily basis, what I tend to go through. Maybe it's the way I handle situations, maybe it's the way in which I talk to people, maybe it's what I talk to other people about, friends, family, and then sometimes seemingly random people or people you kind of know. When you bring up the subjects that we discuss here on The Secret Teachings or are discussed on other shows that are similar to The Secret Teachings, people become hostile at times. People get angry at times. People they want to physically hurt you, or sometimes they kind of recoil into themselves. And I've had a couple of experiences in the last couple of months where people literally will just put their hands over their ears or their fingers in their ears, literally, and they will walk away or at the very least stand there with their fingers in their ears and tell me, no, you're wrong, and raise their voice as if saying, no, you're wrong, I don't want to believe it, is somehow going to change the information that I'm talking about. I've had this experience talking with one person in particular about food. They put their hands over their ears and they tell me, no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear what's in the chicken nuggets at McDonald's, yet they sit there and eat them. So you don't want to hear about what's in the food, but you'll eat it, and that you're okay with that. Another one recently, someone literally put their hands over their ears and walked away saying, I can't talk to you, I don't want to talk, like they're just repeating a mantra, getting themselves to believe it because consciously they know that what I'm saying is correct, but subconsciously their mind will not allow them to even conceive of the idea, so they put their hands over their ears and they walk away saying, no, don't talk to me, I can't hear this, I don't want to hear this. And this one was in relationship to vaccinations. And all I simply told the person was, if we just maybe ate healthy and we kept up our immune system through vitamin supplements or perhaps, fresh raw vegetables, just a thought. The person literally could not conceive of the idea, so they put their hands over their ears and they walked away, telling me, I guess since I'm not a parent, I don't understand, and I should get kids vaccinated. I should at least want other kids to become vaccinated to keep them safe from a variety of different sicknesses, I suppose. I'm not exactly sure what the person thought, but just a couple of experiences I've had where people literally will just put their hands over their ears, walk away, and want to just pretend that the world is not the way that it is. What I'm finding more and more on a daily basis is that people have really been conditioned to live in a fantasy. We've been conditioned to live and to conform to preconceived ideas, which when you present one of these preconceived ideas, even if they kind of look different from everybody else's idea, they're still socially engineered. So if you present one of these preconceived ideas that has been socially engineered into our culture and society, no matter how absurd it may sound, I don't care if it's religious, scientific, I don't care if it has to do with medication, I don't care if it has to do with food, even sports, doesn't matter. When you present one of these ideas that's socially accepted, you can shove it down anybody's throat. You can argue with people about it who have other preconceived beliefs. You can debate about it. You can bicker about it. You can physically and verbally fight with other people. But if you are to present a belief that is contrary to the preconceived beliefs, one that is of you, the individual, of you, the God, as God is inside of you, it is not accepted by the preconceived belief systems, because the preconceived belief systems have also been programmed with fail-safes. They've been trained to know that anything that is not of these preconceived belief systems must be attacked as if it is a virus in the body. So the blood cells attack anything that is contrary to what they believe, either consciously or subconsciously. So, as I said, what I'm starting to find out is that people not that I haven't realized it before, but more and more I'm realizing that people really have not only been trained and conditioned to conform to the culture and society that we live in terms of being taught that we live in this fantasy world where you can just trust everybody. You know, maybe 40 or 50 years ago, you could trust your neighbors and you could leave your door unlocked. And there are probably still places here in the United States and around the world where you can still leave your front door unlocked. You can sleep with your front door open, and you could feel safe about it, be that out in the woods or maybe you're somewhat in the city or in the suburbs. You can't do that anymore. Times change. Same thing with food. Food changes over time. What we put into our body changes over time. I mean, even Coca-Cola 20 years ago is not the Coca-Cola that you drink today. The different Diet Cokes, and especially aspartame, for example. I mean, aspartame was put into the beverages in the 1980s, maybe before that. It was in like early 1980s and the 1990s by Rumsfeld, who worked for Cereal, who was one of the companies that manufactured aspartame. Monsanto's also another manufacturer of aspartame through Ajinomoto. It was a Japanese company that actually purchased the little pink packet Equal. And the different names for aspartame, like NutraSweet, they keep changing the name because they keep trying to deceive you because people become aware of what's going on. And trying to form all of this together today, I've really come up with the concept of the trickster in mythology, tricking people. And that's kind of what I want today's theme to be about. So in relationship back to the food or back to medication or religion or science, or we talk about things like, just basically politics, basic politics, talk about war. Everything is really just a fantasy. Everything is really beyond being twisted and turned around. It's beyond doctors destroying health, lawyers destroying justice, and professors or teachers destroying information or knowledge. It's beyond that. People have really been tricked, and they continue to be tricked time after time after time after time again. It is a world that we live in where people, I think, have been so conditioned from the time that they've been born to believe that everything is just okay the way that it is. You should never protest. You should never write a letter. You should never, and when I say this, I'm not talking about government. I'm talking about just business. People nowadays, customers to businesses, don't even want to, when they know they're getting ripped off, when they know they can get money back from something, or when they know that the product they purchased was garbage and the business should take responsibility for that product, people don't want to say anything, it seems like. I'm using the generality of the word people because I'm trying to encompass a large portion of the population, because this is not just, we're not talking about just what when people listen to my show, they think it's just conspiracy theory. Well, if you think that, fine, but we're not talking about these individuals right now. We're talking about just people in general. We don't want to stand up and say anything. It's not just to the government, so we can just put that to the side. It's not just in terms of what you deem a conspiracy or a conspiracy theory. Put that to the side. I'm talking about just going down to your local supermarket and getting ripped off, or perhaps being charged 4 times for the same item, and nobody wants to say anything because what are others going to think of me? That social conditioning, that conformity has put you into a box. It has put you into a prison. It's not a physical prison. It's a mental prison. It's a prison for your mind, not your brain, but your mind, the consciousness that comes through into the third dimension. And it puts you into a box, and anytime anybody says anything that comes outside of that box, then you reject it from reflex action. It's a reflex. You don't even think about it. When you go into the doctor's office and you set on the little butcher paper that they pull out and they hit your knee and the reflex and your knee goes out, you kick your knee, your leg forward, that's a reflex. You don't really think about it. I mean, breathing is a reflex. You don't really think about it. And if you start thinking about it too much, then you kind of start to have to physically try to breathe for a moment until your body kind of gets back into sync. At least that's what I found. So it's a reflex action. People have been conditioned into the box from the time that they've been born to when they become a teenager to when they become an adult. And anybody that sort of thinks that, something's not right here. I don't like this box. Maybe they don't realize the box, but I don't like the way that things are. Something's strange. Something's odd here. Something's off here. Maybe you're walking home at night and you feel like somebody's following you. It's that kind of a feeling that something's just off, that feeling that you're being watched. You're being watched, which nowadays you literally are being watched, especially if you have an Xbox. And that feeling of being watched, that feeling that someone's following you, that's kind of our intuition that's been shut off within the physical world. So it's more difficult to determine when we're being tricked, although there is that kind of a spidey sense in the back of our mind that something's just not right. Maybe we should pay attention over here rather than over there, where the people in control have tried to divert our attention to. We have had our attention diverted. We've been tricked into so many different areas, so many different ways. I mean, the most recent ones were Ebola. People are so focused on Ebola that the president is able to sign an assortment of executive orders in relationship to health, quarantines, and martial law, as well as what we call immigration, and giving amnesty to illegal immigrants, and then making you foot the bill for it. And we're able to ignore that simply because we're too focused on something else. And that is when the media begins to portray something, whether it's a murder case, whether it's something to do with racism, which is a big one, of course, what happened in Ferguson, and what happens, especially with Ebola, but even going back a couple of years, one of the biggest ones that was just, so, I say biggest, but one of the most blatant ones was that Coney crap back in 2012. And the average person had, most people probably, to be honest with you, most people could not locate Africa on a map, okay? And you could fit 2 or 3 full United States of America into Africa. That's how big it is. Most people couldn't locate Iraq on a map before they wanted to go to war. The president probably couldn't locate Iraq on a map. But yet people are screaming, we got to get this Coney guy because it was on YouTube. I mean, it's not even really social conditioning anymore. It's not a matter of something that's coming in the future. It's like a cashless society. It's not coming in the future. It's here right now. How many people pay with cash? Hardly anybody. How many people even have cash? Hardly anybody. It's the same thing with the social conditioning. It's not that there's somebody that's really sitting in a room deciding when you're born how to condition you. It's something that's already been engineered into society quite a long time ago. And when your intuition starts to tell you that something's wrong, somebody's following you perhaps, somebody's watching you perhaps, not that it's always negative, but that sense that your life might be in danger. It's like the instinct of an animal, because humans are just more intelligent animals. At least that's what I believe, whose genetics have been tampered with in some way, shape, or form. Perhaps that was natural, perhaps it was not. We have that instinct, and it's quickly shut down because it's fed by the trickster, if you will. And what I mean by that is when people begin to awaken to what is happening, when people begin to realize that I don't need to take all of this medication. If I wean myself off of this medication and I start to eat healthy and exercise and stop stressing out about everything, which debilitates the immune system, so does anxiety and stress, which actually can clog your heart arteries just simply through stress. You can have a heart attack, not eating McDonald's every day. And people begin to realize that those in control, consciously and or subconsciously, many of the time, specifically in relation to business and corporations, when people begin seeing through the ruse of fast food, or they begin seeing through the ruse of fly-by-night doctors handing out medication, things of that nature, those in power for financial reasons and therefore for control have to change the way they approach those people. So they'll change the image. They won't change what they actually do. They'll change the image. So fast food restaurants nowadays have changed to using wood floors and wood paneling and like McDonald's chandeliers and fireplaces to divert your attention away from the garbage that you're consuming. They're essentially tricking you, because if you walk into a McDonald's and the floors are filthy and it's just disgusting in there, when you eat the food, you're going to kind of associate that food's disgusting. Well, obviously, these restaurants have made a pretty conscious decision to think, What can we do? What can we do to make people think it's not disgusting in here and to make people come back so we don't lose so much money and have to shut down our businesses? Well, they'll put up the wood paneling, and they'll put up the fireplaces, and they'll put up the chandeliers to divert your attention away from what you're actually eating. You're still eating something that's not really meat, filled with preservatives, filled with natural flavors, artificial flavors, and an assortment of other chemical additives, especially those McFlurry things or the any ice cream you buy anywhere. It's not even really real ice cream half the time, especially Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen's not real ice cream, and they even admit that on their own website. The chemicals that are, if you ever tasted a Steak and shake, it just tastes like you'd be better off to go under the sink in your kitchen and pour a bunch of chemical cleaners into a cup with some ice cream and eat it. It would probably be healthier for you. But these companies and these businesses, what they'll do is that they trick you. It's the trickster once more. It looks like what they've done, and I'll use McDonald's as the example to pick on them a little bit. It looks like by putting up the wood paneling and by putting up the chandelier that they've changed their image, so therefore you associate consciously and or subconsciously that the food you're eating, even though you know it's bad, tastes better, looks better, and is better for you because it's a more wealthier environment. It's a better type of environment is what you're subconsciously seeing. But you're being tricked. You're being deceived. It's the same reason why a politician in a nice suit standing on stage with nice hair, people, I remember saying, wanted to vote for Mitt Romney because he had nice hair. That was our basis for a lot of Republicans for the presidency, because the guy had nice hair. That was the basis. What, do you not have standards? Do you not have moral, ethical standards? And what people will do is they'll look at that politician with the nice hair and the nice suit, and it's the image, it's the manipulation subconsciously of the image. If the person looks the part, they can play the part, even if they're terrible at playing the game. And it is a game. It's a big game. We're all part of this game. It's all a grand illusion. And we're being tricked. From food to health to religion to science to politics to education and everything in between and on the outside. And when I look at things like the Ebola scare, people are preconditioned to live in fear and ignorance, and sometimes arrogance as well, to believe that whatever they're told has to be correct. So when the story is put into the public domain that Ebola is on the outbreak, or in the case of Ferguson, white cops are killing black kids. Well, do you know how many black cops kill white kids? Can we run those statistics? Do you know how many white shop owners were either killed or perhaps beaten up or had their businesses burnt down and destroyed by young black people or older black people who are just as ignorant as whites, Hispanics, and any other race who does crap like they did in Ferguson, where they're burning down businesses and they're looting and rioting? I don't care what color your skin is. That is uncalled for and absurd. It is beyond uncivil, and you're playing into the hands of the people who are the true racists, the people who run the eugenics programs, who want to eradicate the blacks and the Hispanics and the gays and everybody else who's not white. You're playing into their hands. You're being tricked and you're being deceived. You call me a racist, call me an anti-Semite, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. You can call me whatever you want because that's your preconceived belief system. You're conditioned to conform to what the system tells you to do. And I've fallen into that grouping sometimes. I've been tricked. Everybody's been tricked. I don't care who you are. Everybody has been tricked to some extent. When you're told that the government wants to come take your guns, well, that's true. But at the same time, it's next to impossible. It's not something that's so realistic. So when you say that someone wants to come take your guns, well, what do people want to do? Well, if they don't buy into that propaganda by saying that, you know, we need to take the guns away from people, then they'll say, well, I need to buy more guns. So they'll go buy more guns. And who makes money off of that? The gun manufacturers. And who has stock in those gun manufacturers? Many of the politicians who say They're trying to take our guns away, so we should go buy more guns. I mean, it's all really a ruse. It's all really just a big scam is all that it is. It's a big trick. It's a big business is what it is, and it's a big trick. They're tricking you. They're deceiving you. They're lying to you. And when I say they, I'm talking about very elite members of our society, people that aren't so elite. I'm talking about big corporations and big businesses that run the government. See, what's happening is that people, as they've been conditioned to conform with these preconceived belief systems, they have been literally trained subconsciously to defend themselves against the very thing that is supposed to be harming them. And what I mean by that is that people will stand up for what they supposedly believe in, and they actually end up standing up for the very thing that's harming them. People will stand up and say, "Oh, we want things to be different in this country, so I'm going to vote for the Republican this year. I'm going to vote for the Democrat this year. Maybe I'll even vote for the Independent this year." But when all three are controlled by the same hand, when all three have their hand in the same pot, does it really matter who you vote for? You've been tricked and you've been deceived and you've been lied to. It's just like companies that will purchase up organic food labels, like Annie's was just purchased recently. Or you'll have companies that will purchase up other products, or they'll slap the natural label on their food. And you think, okay, look, I'm not going to McDonald's. I'm buying the Lay's potato chips that say natural. And they've changed the bag to an earthly color, so it looks kind of organic and natural. It's brown. It looks organic. It must be recycled. So you think you're eating healthy. Well, you're actually eating genetically modified potatoes with genetically modified bacteria in them and poison, but you feel better about doing it because the bag looks different and because they've changed the lettering and because it says natural. But you don't ever take a second to stop and think, what is natural? What does natural actually mean? Something, I've discussed millions of times on this show. That's the trick. That's the deception. And again, it's in politics. It's in your everyday life. Every time you turn on the TV and you watch a news station, you're being tricked and your attention's being diverted. A lot of times people will want, as I said a few minutes ago, people kind of want to understand and know that something's wrong. They do understand and know that something's wrong. Somebody's watching them, somebody's following them. But what tends to happen is that they're being tricked. They're being tricked into believing that, okay, someone's following me, somebody's watching me, I've got to do something about this, something doesn't seem right. So they jump to the first thing that is alternative. They jump to the first thing that doesn't seem like it would harm them. When people are tired of Republicans and Democrats, they jump to the independents. But by the time they get there, the system's already 10 steps ahead of them. By the time they get to that independent concept, the independents are just being run by the Republicans and Democrats. By the time the person understands that what they're eating is poisoning their bodies and their children, the real people who should be, if you're going to lock people up for being vegetarians and vegans, maybe we should lock people up for feeding their kids fast food every day. How about that? Is that radical enough for you? Maybe we should lock up the fat parent who takes their child to McDonald's every single day, and they have a 13-year-old little girl who's incredibly obese and has diabetes before she's even in high school. And that has nothing to do with genetics. Don't give me that crap. I'm talking about the parents who just load their kids up with this stuff because they don't want to be parents. They don't want to cook for their child. Or they will cook for their child, but they'll just put in a microwave dinner. Okay? And the little obese child whose stomach is hanging out from her shirt because you can't find clothes big enough to fit these kids. I'm not making fun of the kids. I'm saying that what is a disease? Yeah, obesity is a disease, but something else is a disease. Ignorance and laziness is a disease, and it is sweeping across the United States faster than Ebola or any other type of manufactured bioweapon could. Ignorance is a disease in this country. Ignorance is a disease around the world. Ignorance is a disease that is spreading much quicker than any biological weapon, anything that's been engineered in a laboratory, or anything that naturally forms in Mother Nature. Perhaps any of these different types of viruses or diseases that are released naturally, perhaps it's a way for Mother Nature to call the population. Anybody ever think of something like that? Perhaps it's a way to call the population. It's a natural way. But then humans have their own ways by engineering viruses and bacteria, genetically modified food, genetically modified crops and plants and mosquitoes. They're releasing genetically modified mosquitoes in Florida, not too far from where I'm at. Genetically modified mosquitoes. Why would they do this? Is there not a population control policy in hand? And are there not other ways to control the population? When you say population control, people automatically, for that preconceived belief system, think that you're nuts, and they think that it has to mean that you're taking people to concentration camps, but it doesn't. Population control is brainwashing parents into believing that eating healthy is dangerous or eating healthy is expensive, so we should take our kids to fast food. And when the parents finally start to think fast food must be really bad for my kids are 300 pounds, they're not even in high school yet, they're obese, they've got diabetes, and they're just enormous, and they can't think at all. They have no ability to think anymore. That's been eradicated through the poisons in the food and the beverages, and especially through the education system, where kids are not thinking, they're not taught to critically think, and parents, they'll look at that and they'll say, well, what we could do is we could eat differently. And, that's great if you want to eat differently, but then the parents are tricked. They go to the store, they say, okay, we're going to eat differently, but there's nobody to teach them. The doctor's not going to teach them. Dr. Oz is not going to teach you. Dr. Phil's not going to teach you. Oprah's not going to teach you. They're not going to teach you that when you go to the store and you buy the natural flavored food, it's full of just as many chemicals as the food that is conventional. They're not going to tell you that when you go to the store and you buy, I went to Whole Foods one time in the last couple of months. And I went there, and they've got these organic apples, the organic apples, and they're pretty decent size, but it just looks like an apple. I mean, big surprise, right? An apple looks like an apple. But the conventional apples, they look like the fake foam fruit that you set on the table in a model home when you show it to sell it to somebody who's looking to buy a house. That's what it looks like to me. It's polished. So when you go to the store and you buy it, you think, I'm eating healthy. Well, not really. You're eating healthier, but the difference between eating a granola bar and a candy bar, granola bar is not that much better than a candy bar. It's healthier, but it's not what's really good for your body. It's not what your body needs. So there's parents that they really do, and I feel sorry for them, the ones that say, we want to eat healthy, but they have nobody to teach them. And not that I'm a master of healthy eating, but this is why, one of the reasons I do the secret teachings, because I try to reveal information to people that's not actually hidden. It's not a secret. It's just information that if you took a second to sit down and look for it, you'd find it very easily, that the natural products are in some cases worse than the products that don't even say natural. The conventional products in some cases are better. People that are vegans are better than the vegan food. Have you ever picked up fake meat at a grocery store and read the back of what it says for the vegan food? It is, you'd be better off eating McDonald's in some cases. And I'm not exaggerating. You'd be better off eating McDonald's than eating the vegan food sometimes. And there's so many different diets, and I understand that. The point I'm trying to get across is that people are being deceived. Even the people that have the best intentions in mind and they don't want to fill their kids with garbage, they are still inadvertently poisoning them through the ignorance, but not chosen ignorance. It's just true ignorance, not knowing, of feeding their kids certain foods because it says natural. And they're being deceived, and they're being lied to, and they're being tricked by the trickster into purchasing those products, into using those products, in some cases perhaps even hand lotions that there could be birth control in. I've thought that for a long time. They put birth control in women's lotion. It gets absorbed into the skin and the bloodstream. Little things like that. Even candles. The poison that's put into candles when you burn them in your house, it poisons you. It's a slow kill. It's not right away. And it's not even really about killing. It's about control, as it's population control. It's about controlling your perceptions. It's about making you conform. It's about controlling what you see and how you do things, so that when you watch a television show and in between there's a commercial and you're not really paying attention to it, but in the background your subconscious is listening to that commercial, all the details and the flashes of light and the little sounds, so that when you get up and you're not really paying attention to the McDonald's commercial, but you drive down the road later in the day to go get gas and maybe pick up something to eat at a restaurant, you drive past McDonald's and think, wait a minute, McDonald's looks pretty good, I should go there. You have no idea that the commercial literally took control of your mind and subconsciously subdued your conscious into wanting that food. And it's all fast food restaurants who are purchasing the products, especially as we now come up on the Christmas holiday, or Yule, or what I call Saturnalia. We'll be doing a show on that coming up in just a couple of weeks here on The Secret Teachings. By the way, our website is thesecretteachings.info. It's thesecretteachings.info. I guess the point of the first segment here, the first rant of the day, is that we have been conditioned to conform with an assortment of preconceived beliefs that if you accept any of these beliefs, it's just socially the norm. But these people that socially conform to the norm don't accept others who are individual. And the system sells the norm as individuality because they give you an assortment of beliefs, but it's not individuality because there's a million other people who share that exact same belief that you do. Individuality is having your own beliefs and your own opinions, not what others think. Sometimes the opinions, of course, link up, but having your own opinions and saying what you believe in and know to be true, regardless of what anybody else says. Not being scared of what others think of you. And it's the complete opposite for the people that are in the box, or the people with the preconceived beliefs. They don't want to say anything contrary to those beliefs because they're subconsciously and consciously, knowingly afraid of what others will say of them. What are they going to think of me? Wonder if my boss fires me because I say something. Wonder if my family doesn't want to spend any more time with me because I have these beliefs. Wonder if my kids don't like me because I say this. Wonder if my spouse doesn't like me, my friends don't like me. I'm just going to grow old and die alone because no one's going to want to spend time with me or appreciate me because I have differencing in opinions. First of all, if someone feels that way, I kind of am in that boat too. But at the same time, if the more you talk about it, you find people who are in that boat and you realize it's a really big boat and there's a lot of people on it. And even the people that you feel like would judge you, they're feeling the same thing about you. And if you would just open your mouth and have them to open their mouth and you would have a discussion about it, yeah, people are going to put their hands over their ears and they're going to run away scared like little sheep and proles that they are. But you're going to find more people who are going to say, yeah, I know that. Or that's interesting. I didn't know that about vaccinations. I didn't know that about health food. And you can start to inform people at the same time. There's plenty of ways to do it. I don't know. You go to your local supermarket and just start talking to people. There's a way you can make a change. People say, write a letter to a congressman. I don't think that works. Go to your local supermarket, start talking to people about food, something that directly affects them in the now. If they want to put their hands over their ears and walk away, that's on them. We have to start talking to people about this. We have to start informing people about this. I'm not on a pedestal. I don't care what anybody thinks. And the great thing that makes me smile is that no matter how many times people try to shut me down, I don't necessarily mean the radio, but that falls into this category. No matter how many times people try to shut me down, try to get me off air, or try to get me to be quiet, or get me in trouble elsewhere, there's nothing that they can do. And what gets to those people is that they can't get to me. That's what really gets to the trolls and the proles and the sheep. They can't get to me. That's what gets to them. So they get irritated and they storm away. They show their true colors. I have an open mind to everything. It doesn't mean I believe everything, but I have an open mind to it, to all possibility, not just to what I've been preconditioned to believe or to conform to. Perhaps I'm still tricked by the trickster. I'm not exactly sure, but I know one thing for sure. One thing is for sure, that even though I have been tricked by the trickster in the past, I less and less am tricked by the trickster because I know how the trickster operates. I know how that joker operates. Everything is twisted and distorted and manipulated. When you hear something from the media, believe the opposite. But only for enough time for the media not to begin to promote the opposite, because once the media promotes the opposite, then you jump back to the previous accepted belief, and you fall right back into the trap. Perhaps the best way to say it is, believe what you believe based on what you know, not what others tell you, not what others give you their opinion about, as we see in the media. It's just opinions and crap. Same thing with health, same thing with politics, same thing with education, same thing with religion. It's crap right across the board. You're being tricked and deceived in every one of these categories and many more throughout your life. The culture we live in and the society. Stop living in fear. Stop letting people shove their beliefs in your face. And I think we should start having respect for one another. Stop teaching our kids blind consumerism. That's not the meaning of life, to just buy as much as you can as we continue to buy our wants that stress us out because we want something. They're not wants as much as they are artificial needs, because after a while they become needs. That's the desire. The desire is what led to man's fall in the Garden of Eden, esoterically. By not having desire, you truly live in peace and tranquility. And when we have all of these wants, these artificial needs, how do we satisfy them? We need money. And how do we get money? We get a job. And then we work 9 to 5 or whatever your work schedule is to obtain that money so you can buy those objects. And for just a moment, you feel like you've accomplished something. You feel like you understand the point of life. Just for enough time for that item to become out of date. So you need to go back to work to make more money to buy another item that's produced by the very system that is enslaving you. You're paying for your slavery. And just like Aldous Huxley said, people now have begun to love their servitude. I'm your host, Ryan Gable. This is The Secret Teachings. TheSecretTeachings.info is the website. You can find the show archive there, as well as a top news tab for all of the news that we'll discuss here in just a couple of minutes, plus a way to get a copy of my book, The Grand Illusion Slaves to Perception. And, of course, if you'd like to help support The Secret Teachings, there is a donation button on the top right of the homepage at TheSecretTeachings.info. Isn't it so funny that people are more concerned nowadays with the Star Wars trailer than they are about the things that affect their lives? It's just incredible to me. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with current events, then the Trickster and false flag terror, as this is the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. Don't be tricked. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Listening to The Secret Teachings. For more information, you can visit thesecretteachings.info, where you can find a full list of downloadable episodes, top news articles, links to our Facebook page, and ways to catch the show no matter where you're located. For questions, comments, or requests, you can email us at rdgable, that's rdgable at yahoo.com. Stay tuned. At The Secret Teachings, we are not a part of any group, label, and we do not attempt to fearmonger. As some of the topics we discuss may seem scary, I advise you not to be afraid, but to be informed as we discuss current events, ancient history, philosophy, symbolism, the paranormal, comparative religions, the occult, alternative science, and much more. Remember that when someone claims to have the absolute truth, it is usually nothing but mere opinion, a perspective on how they view the world, or something they are simply repeating from someone or somewhere else. I am not here to tell you that what I say is truth, but to allow you to decide for yourself based on the evidence presented and the dots connected. Information is not negative. It is how you view it that determines the dimensional characteristics of either dual aspect of negativity or positivity. Even if we disagree, we should still be able to have a discussion without de facto fallacies of ad hominem name-calling and ridicule, not predicated on fact or reason, but on ignorance, pettiness, self-absorption, ego, and fear. To catch the show, we air every Saturday on the Dark Matter Radio Network at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, and every Sunday on the L&M Radio Network at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can also listen on planetparanormal.com and thesecretteachings.info for a full show archive. Try as you might, but no amount of disinformation, propaganda, rhetoric, or trolling on the internet will change the truth. The truth is the truth, regardless if the masses accept it as is, or if it is accepted by only one out of billions. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. For more information, I'm your host, Ryan Gable. You can visit the website, thesecretteachings.info. Namaste.
You hold a very good, you're very articulate. You do a great job as an interviewer. Hi, I'm Matthew Petty, author of Alpha to Omega, Journey to the End of Time, and the 5-volume Apocalypse Now ebook series. You're listening to The Secret Teachings.
Hello, this is Mark Booth, author of The Secret History of the World and The Sacred History, and you've been listening to The Secret Teachings.
This is Kevin Annett with the International Tribunal in the Crimes of Church and State, the ITCCS.org, and you're listening to The Secret Teachings.
This is Scott Wolter, host of America on Earth, author of The Hooked X and Akhenaten to the Founding Fathers, and you're listening to The Secret.
This is Freeway Rick Ross, and you're listening to The Secret Teachings.
All I hear about is the Illuminati. Prodigy said they want my mind, soul, and my body. What do they want from me? A lot probably, but what for? I'm a nobody. Do I really have to sell my soul for a little bit of cars and clothes? Women and gold, an immaculate home. Well, can I buy it back after it's sold? I hope so. Must I sacrifice one of my closest just to have my face on posters? My name in lights, my finance right. Must I worship the devil? Jesus Christ, this can't be life. But if it is, I'ma live it till I'm breathless. Why do most artists die at 27? Sometimes I think that it's just all connected. Maybe I've said too much. I should end it.
Pardon me, I had to laugh. People are really buying into this, that you are some...
You are listening to The Secret Teachings still. This song is Illuminati by Nino, mixed by my good friend DJ Wired. And this is like a retro Secret Teachings. I want to play some music today. I want to just be able to relax and present to you a new conceptual idea that most people don't think about. Enjoy the song.
Sometimes I find myself throwing up signs like one of the artists Sean Carter signed. And what's the deal with this all-seeing eye? Does it blink? Does it cry? Does it sleep? Does it die? Does its blood drain? Does it feel the same pain as I? Does it have a body? And what does it embody? Does it really control everybody? Why is it on the dollar bill? Ain't no pyramids where I'm from. How is that the Great Seal? And then it says, in God we trust. One is the root of all evil. Guess God means us. Is the new world order approaching? And for the players in this game, who's coaching? Are all the closed minds now open? I hope the release of this song doesn't provoke them.
And we live in a place now that feels just about like a plantation. We're all indentured servants. You know, when I found out there were 8 presidents before George Washington, I wanted to smack somebody. You know, I wanted to know why I was taught otherwise. Just tell me the whole story. I'll fill in the blanks, but don't, you know.
My favorite artists isn't getting targeted. The videos on YouTube will make you think they're part of it. Maybe we all are, and just don't know about it. That'd be fucked up, but I wouldn't doubt it. I heard there were presidents before Washington. Damn, what's going on down in Washington? I've been deceived by politicians and congressmen. Is Obama the president or a puppet with dark skin? Who's pulling the strings? Who's calling the shots? I feel rebellious. This is the return of Pac. All my fans tell me to stop. You can't talk about this and remain on top. But maybe that's not the best spot. Most successful people lost their loved ones, did they not? If death is another word for success, then I'm sorry, I'd rather be in debt. DJ Y.
You are listening to The Secret Teachings. I am your host, Ryan Gable. That song was called Illuminati by Nino, Nino, mixed by DJ Wired, who used to do music for us at the old radio station. So I wanted to play some music today, especially I really love hip-hop music. I'm a big fan of rap music, but I'm also a big fan of rock music, and I like a lot of music that has any type of meaning to it. If it has a message to it, then I will usually listen to that music no matter what it is, even if it's country music, which I'm not a huge fan of. But anyway, in the first couple of minutes, really in the first almost an hour, I think I just kind of went off. I meant it to just be an introduction, but I really got out a lot of what I wanted to say about the trickster and about being deceived and conformity in our society. And I think that the gist of that is now on the table. You kind of know how I feel, what I tried to get across to you. And as we move along into current events, I want you to kind of keep in mind everything that we discussed in the first hour, because it's going to be important in understanding some of the stuff that's going on in the news. And for example, I have all of this up at thesecretteachings.info under the top news tab, by the way. You just go to that tab, you click it, and it'll open up a list of blue links with all of these news articles there. The first news article I found, and some of this really is not important, it really has no meaning to it, but this one here says officials have designated 35 hospitals for Ebola care, according to the Associated Press. So these are 35 hospitals in metropolitan areas in the United States for Ebola care. Now, I would think if it's a major disease that they would not put them in places like New York, San Francisco, Minneapolis, and Washington, D.C., that maybe they want to kind of quarantine the location outside of a major metropolis. But perhaps that's the plan, is to say that all of a sudden now there's an outbreak and it's because one person was sick and it infected the whole city. I don't know. It kind of sounds like Umbrella's involved. It kind of sounds like like another Resident Evil movie to me. But I wanted to bring this up because, as I mentioned in the first hour, we're tricked into believing that, okay, look, Ebola's it's an outbreak. This Coney guy, he's on the loose. We have to go get him. These are preconditioned beliefs, preconditioned points of view that are played on by the establishment. They're able to get you to believe anything that they want you to believe, and many of them who get you to believe it are being tricked and deceived themselves. There is an underlying thread. There is an underlying string. This is my string theory. This is my M theory. It's called manipulation theory. There's a string or a thin line that everything is kind of built upon. And even the people that are orchestrating these events and are manipulating the media and your perceptions through the media and through your doctor and through the education system, inadvertently, because you've been programmed since the time you've been born to what is right or wrong. So later on in life, nobody has to tell you what is right or wrong. You just innately know from what you've been told that certain things are right and certain things are wrong. And even when you feel like that person's watching you, that person's following you, that what you believe is right or wrong is actually backwards and it should be the reverse of that, you don't question it because life has went along this far. You might as well just go along with what got you to the place that you are now. No matter if switching your perception could vastly and drastically change your life for the better, people don't want to take that chance. And why is that? Because we're going back to the other part of social control, and that is fear. And people are scared of things they don't understand. People are scared of the unknown. Even if what's in that dark room is not a monster, but yet something that could change your life for the better. What is in that room is a better job. What is in that room is a better lifestyle for you. What is in that room is a family, or whatever you want or seem to need in life is in that room. You refuse to go in the room because it is dark and you cannot see it, so it is unknown, and you are deceived by the trickster because they have shut the light off to what you actually need in life, and they've given you these artificial wants, these artificial needs that are bathed in light. So you think, what is right or wrong? Well, What's right must be light, and what's wrong must be dark. But see, what happened is they unscrewed the light bulb in the room where the true light was, and they shed the false light onto the objects, onto what you think you want, the artificial needs. So you think, okay, I'm going to go where the light is because that's what I've been taught. So you go to the light, and what you find in the light is really misery and stress and anxiety and a terrible feeling of hopelessness and fear. And you know that it's not right, but you stay there anyway because you've been told your whole life that by standing in the light, by looking for the light, by following the light at the end of the tunnel, that's how you get to the finish line, or whatever people think the end of life is. That's the point of life, is to bathe yourself in the light, because that is what is right. Yet, if you understand that when people come up to you and say, you know, this is an artificial light, it's a fake light, you're standing under fluorescent lights or something, it's a fake light, it's something that's manufactured. All of the stuff that's in the light is actually what exists in the dark. It's what you don't want. You have to go into the dark and shine a light into the dark to find what you actually need, not the artificial needs, not the wants that have been engineered into you. So when you told that by the person, you tell them that they're crazy, because why would anybody want to go into the dark when they can have what's in the light? Why would anybody want to do that? But the few people that do say, I've had it with the artificial light, I've had it with these material possessions, I've had it with the way that things really are, I've had it with education. It's not education, it's indoctrination. I've had it with health. Doctors don't heal you. Doctors make you sicker to make a profit. I've had it with the news. The news is not news. The news is propaganda promoting the needs and or the wants of the state. I've had it. No longer am I going to eat this way. No longer am I going to live this way. No longer am I going to be scared of what other people think of me. I'm going to say it like it is, and if they don't like it, then they can kiss my ass. And when you go into the darkness and you shine the light into the darkness, you realize that what's in the darkness is actually what you need, and what you need is what Mother Nature has programmed into you, because what you need is actually what you want in the first place. Subconsciously it's there, but your consciousness has been hijacked by the trickster to make you think that what's in the light is what you actually want, but what you actually want is in the darkness. You have to go to the darkness, and you have to allow that sunlight to shine through the room, the box that's been built around to create the system that we have today, to block the sunlight, the true light, from shining onto what you actually need in life. And the artificial lights have been constructed so that you are tricked and that you are deceived. One of the things that I found interesting recently is the why of Pythagoras. And the why of Pythagoras is, of course, broken apart. We know what a Y looks like. It's like a fork in the road, in the path. The left is earthly wisdom. It is material in one sense. The right path is divine wisdom, spirituality, individuality, perhaps the true meaning of life. And people are deceived because the left path is lit and is very easy, so people tend to take it. But it's lit by the trickster. It's lit by the deceiver. It's lit by Lucifer, the bearer of light. It's lit by the entity of the planet Venus, who makes life difficult by tricking you into believing certain things that are not true. And the right path, the divine wisdom, nobody hands you wisdom. Wisdom is not bestowed. Wisdom is achieved. So of course it's going to be dark. But we associate dark with the devil or with Lucifer, which is ironic because Lucifer is the light bearer. So two separate entities. But we associate darkness with the devil and light with God. So if we see light, we might as well follow that lit path because that leads us to God. But it doesn't. It actually leads you to, I don't like to say it, but to the devil, if we're going to use these terminologies. The right path, that's actually dark, because wisdom is not bestowed. Wisdom is achieved. No one hands you divine wisdom, which is why you end up with the earthly material possessions. You end up with the worldly desires, which is the furthest thing from peace and tranquility. If you go to the right, it's dark, but you shed light into that dark. and you find the true wisdom at the end of that pathway, because you were one of the few who were able to walk in that path without fear, and you find the divine wisdom at the end of that path. You know, that's how I see it. Perhaps there are variations of ways to see it philosophically, but that's how I see it. I see it as a deception. I see it as a distortion of our reality. And this is even how I see the main religions, because they preach to you that you should, for example, we always have all of the different concepts of good and evil, God or the devil, and it's in almost every religion. Some religions that are more spiritual, then the devil is kind of like desire, and giving up material possessions is more heavenly, it's more godly, it's more wise. It's the right path of the Y of Pythagoras. The left path is the earthly material world, the 3D hologram that we live in. And some other religions break it down in more layman terms and say, okay, there's a God and there's a devil. Most people assume that God is sitting on the left hand of the Y and the devil is on the right hand. But the trick is, there is no God or the devil. They've both been manufactured to get you to believe that one is good and one is evil. You should go towards the one that is good. And when you go towards the one that is good, when you follow the light, when you do not allow wisdom to come to you, and you realize that you have to go to it, you realize you've been deceived. You have to find the wisdom. You have to find the truth. You have to be that truth seeker. You have to go and find it for yourself. Nobody hands it to you. But you've been deceived because you go after the light. You think that by following God, that's going to take you there. It's just like this idea that if you just give yourself to God, you sell your soul to God, not the devil, but to God, you will have eternal life and live forever. But it's not physical. And it's still a deception, and you're still being tricked. If you go down the path that most Christians would be terrified of because they assume that it must be the devil waiting at the end to consume your flesh and drink your blood, like the communion, if you go down that path, you find there is no devil there. Even if you go down the earthly path, you find that there's no God there. But when you go down that dark path, you find there's no devil there. And when you get to the end of it, you think, how does nobody see this? And they can't see it because you can look back through all of that darkness to all of the people who are deciding which path to take. And you can say, you can scream at them and you can wave your arms and say, hey, over here, there's nothing to be afraid of in the darkness. You know, you actually understand things by entering into the dark. It makes more sense. You feel better. It's the point of life. You've reached the end of life. You've obtained that wisdom and knowledge, and those people, they can't see you. So you can scream all you want. You can try to drag people in there, but they have to go under their own will. And if they don't go under their own will, and they do choose to make they make that decision to go down the left path, to go down the path of what they consider to be light, then they have been tricked. And I think the Y probably comes back around, at least the left path does, because those people who have been tricked must be presented with that option of which path to choose once again later in life, because that's some of the things that we've discussed here on the show, is that you make a mistake, you're going to have to keep making that mistake until you make the correct decision. At least, again, that is how I see it. I kind of got off on a rant there in relationship to the news, but here's some other news, and this is, again, all available at thesecretteachings.info. That is thesecretteachings.info under the top news tab. If you click that on the website, it'll bring up a link with all of these articles in blue. You'll see the little the description of the article in blue. You click that, it takes you to the website. And again, just because we cover it does not mean I believe it. A lot of times I use an article like the 35 hospitals for Ebola care a moment ago just to get into a discussion about something else. So this next article is from theweek.com. It says, archaeologists discover the largest stone ever carved by human hands. It says archaeologists from the German Institute have found that they think It says archaeologists from the German Archaeological Institute have found what they think is the largest stone ever created by human hands. The stone is more than 2,000 years old, dating to at least 27 BCE, the archaeologists estimate. The archaeologists found the stone in a quarry in Baalbek in Lebanon. During Roman rule, Baalbek was a Roman colony known as Heliopolis, the city of the sun. Alexander the Great is the one who founded Heliopolis in 334 BC. Remember, Alexander is actually the one who died in Babylon at 33 years old, the same age that the famous Jesus character died, which it really has to do, I think, with death and resurrection in relationship to the symbolic aspects of the number 33. Pertaining to the esoteric teachings, but that's another story entirely. That article is up at thesecretteachings.info. Here's another one. I talked to my friend Karen Dolman about this. I actually just saw the Ouija movie a couple of weeks ago, and this is from the London Independent. It says, Ouija boards are the must-have gift this Christmas, fueled by a schlock horror film. What better time to talk to the dead people for fun than the festival to celebrate the birth of Jesus? Ouija boards are flying themselves off shelves and under trees this Christmas. Don't you love the way that they make a joke about it in the article? So much so I can't even read the garbage, to be honest with you. I'm not even going to continue to read the paragraph. But here's the article. Ouija boards are a must-have gift this Christmas. Apparently, they have become extremely popular once again. Some stores don't sell them. I went to a store, the Toys R Us. I think those are all over the place, at least here in the U.S., the Toys R Us. And I went in there, and I was looking for the Ouija board, and I found it. I opened the box up, and it let me down. I thought that, the companies like Parker Brothers, they could afford to make a better board. It was a piece of cardboard with the actual lettering and the yes and the no and the goodbye and the numbers was like a piece of, it's like a sticker that they put on the cardboard, and they sell it for $20 because they have the patent on it. It was disappointing, but I think that I'm going to get a wooden Ouija board here soon, and I think I'm going to start perhaps having some sessions with it. And I don't know if it'll be very soon, maybe sometime next year, but maybe I'll do another show on the Ouija board and have Karen back to talk about my experience with it. I think that might be pretty fun. Anyway, that article is up at thesecretteachings.info. And you know what? People that say, the Ouija board, it's evil, it's the devil, don't have that in my house. Well, you know what? Maybe we should if we're going to get rid of the Ouija board, maybe we should get rid of anything that could be remotely considered evil. So let's get rid of the Bible, because some people consider that evil. Let's get rid of the violent video games and the violent movies. That could be considered evil to some extent. Now I'm just kind of picking on people, but why we have, again, these preconceived ideas. The Ouija board's not okay, but the violent movies that we're showing to our children are okay. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Next article I have is A Creature from the Deep from the Daily Mail, actually, .co.uk. This is an interesting article, not really that it's an article, but really that it's just a series of pictures of a creature that washed up on a beach in Russia. It looks kind of like a fish, but it kind of looks like it has a beak like a bird almost. So people kind of look at it and they think, it's kind of creepy. It is kind of creepy. When I look at it, what I tend to think is that we know so little about our oceans, We know so little about the human mind, so little about the human brain to the side of that. We know so little about our oceans, and when people have this idea, again, the preconceived belief system, that humans are everything and that we know everything and that we're at the cutting edge of human civilization, the cutting edge of human technology and information awareness, and we're not. We're barely beginning to scratch the surface. We're barely beginning to scratch that surface. So when I see articles like this, what tends to happen is that a lot of times people, news organizations, television shows, they look at this and they'll say, look, this creature looks odd and different than anything you've ever said before. Perhaps it could be alien. Not that this article says that, but this is the deception of the trickster once again. They use things that you as a person, that our society and culture as a people don't understand, that are odd. And they use them to promote an agenda of deception to get you to look the other direction, because scientists can't explain what this creature is, perhaps, so they say, well, it must be alien. So why you look at the scientist who says he knows everything, and since he doesn't know anything about this, you look at the scientist and you say, what is it? And the scientist doesn't know, so they say, quick, look over there, it might be alien. They divert your attention. That doesn't happen literally. It's just an example. They divert your attention from what actually is. But we know so little about our oceans. I think it's a cool set of pictures. Check it out. Let me know what you think, of course, on Facebook.com/The Secret Teachings, which has just exploded recently because of the new networks that we're on. Is it Talk 98? We have really, really exploded on the Facebook, which I don't even really spend much time on Facebook, but I kind of kept up with it recently simply because of that. But also at thesecretteachings.info. It's thesecretteachings.info. You can find this article as well. Here's another one. It says, Secret Space Program, UFO conspiracy theorists believe that NASA is in constant touch with aliens. There's an article I don't even want to get into today. That's from the International Business Times. Another article is DNA survives rocket trip into space. So did life even start on Earth at all? The article says. Scientists at the University of Zurich discovered DNA can survive re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. Well, if DNA can survive re-entry into Earth's atmosphere, and we found a type of plankton algae living on the outside of the International Space Station, the first thing this does is it shows you that, as we already know, life will find a way to survive. Not only can, but will find a way to survive in any and all environments. The deep, dark abyss that is space, which is greatly understood like our oceans. The harsh environment that is space. Cold, radiation, extreme heat. Life finds a way to survive. By understanding that, then we can begin to come to grips with the reality that we are not the only intelligent species in the universe, that there is life all throughout the universe. There is life on every planet in some form, whether in this dimension or another. When we begin to, I think, try to come up with an understanding of that concept and realize that we are not the center of the universe and that things do not revolve around us, then I think that we can begin to try to have a better understanding of what the true purpose of life really is all about. That article is up at thesecretteachings.info. Here's another one from CNET.com. Martian meteorite may contain evidence of extraterrestrial life. It says a meteorite from Mars that landed on Earth in 2011 contains a carbon compound that is biological in origin. NASA rover Curiosity is beavering away up on Mars, examining rocks, drilling holes, checking out the weather, but it's not just up there to look at the planet's hospitality for humans. It's also looking for conditions favorable for life. Perhaps now or in the past is something that people will argue about. I think there's probably life there now. There could have been different forms of life there in the past. I'm not sure, but what I am sure about is that this planet is not the only planet that can sustain life. Life will exist on the outside of a tin can orbiting our planet. That's how life can find a way to exist in any type of environment. The next article I have is, could religion survive contact with extraterrestrials? Well, let's hope not. Let's hope not. It says a pair of new books contend that it could, but the implications of such a discovery would surely destroy religion as we know it. I agree. Religion as we know it would be seemingly destroyed by contact with extraterrestrial life. However, it could also prove, the contact with extraterrestrial life, that is, prove that those religious stories in some way, shape, or form are true. I have swayed away from that, to be honest with you, recently, because I believe more in the esoteric, more in the symbolic aspects of what is taught. I can go along, and I've explained this before, I can go along with the idea that perhaps what in the Bible is described is perhaps extraterrestrial contact. I can get along with that, that's fine, but at the same time, as the more I learn about the esoteric and the occult, the more I realize that I've been tricked and that that's not true. And that may lose me 1,000 listeners because they want to hear about aliens, but I'm going to tell you what I found, and I'm going to allow myself to evolve mentally and spiritually along with the secret teachings, and hopefully you'll evolve with me, or at least take into consideration what I'm saying. And what I mean by that is this. I can look at a story such as Jesus curing the blind. Now, in the Bible, you hear stories, or you go to Sunday school, you hear Jesus touched the man, and the man could see. Well, that's a simplified version of what happened for the pros or for the people who just don't think that much. They want a simplified explanation. That's it. Now, if you look at the ancient alien point of view, they might say something, and it makes sense too, they might say something like this. Well, all people back then, very few of them could read or write. So they wouldn't really be able to explain that experience that they saw Jesus touch somebody and he healed them. It'd be much more complicated than that. Perhaps what they saw was Jesus put his hand onto the back of some person who was blind, and then he led him into a tent. And when he got into the tent, perhaps there was a type of advanced technology there to perform LASIK surgery so that the person could see again. The person has the LASIK surgery, the person comes out of the tent, he can see. Unbelievable, right? Well, those people, even the ones who could write, they describe it as Jesus touched the man and he was healed. Now, when I say that now, I think, no, something's wrong with that. That's not true. I don't buy that, and I don't buy Jesus touched him and he was healed. It's different. What I believe is that Jesus, as a prophet, more as a radical religious teacher, preaching out against banking and the corruption of the Romans, is a teacher. He was a Nazarite. He was a member of the society that are the Qumranians to this day. Still exists, the same society Jesus was a part of, or at least the Jesus that is somewhat portrayed in the Bible. But of course, that image has been distorted by the church, who turned him into an Aryan Superman with the blonde hair and the blonde platinum hair and the blue eyes and the pale white skin. I mean, Jesus is not a freaking albino. Jesus was probably black, or at least had very dark skin. But that's the trickster once again deceiving you. If Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light, which has again been distorted by the church, but if Jesus as a teacher had the truth, as a sage, perhaps, as a maybe even a yogi, as a philosophical teacher who taught the secret teachings, that information, symbolically, at least for the proles, is considered to be truth and light. It's a general terminology. Well, our eyes can see what? Our eyes can see this world, the physical world, because light, photons, particles interacting with our eyes and the way that our eyes are set up with the rods and the cones, it allows us to see in this third dimension, in this physical world. Without light, it might exist, but you wouldn't be able to see anything. People who are blind, they can't see anything. They exist, but how can they actually prove that existence with touching? To them, that table's not real until they touch it because they can't see it, so their brain's not decoding that information. To others, the table might be real because they can see it, so their brain is decoding the information. It's like a computer program. So Jesus is the light. Someone who is considered to be ignorant, not in a negative way, but ignorant, they just don't know about the concepts of life, for example. They're considered to be what? Blind. So if the person is blind, they're ignorant to these conceptual ideas that we discuss here on the Secret Teachings. They're ignorant to those secret teachings, to the higher conceptual ideas, the philosophies of the ancients who believed this. The different, not really the people, more so the priests and the magi, the elite members of society, which is another reason why the Romans wanted to have Jesus executed, because he was releasing that information. And he suffered for it. If this person is blind, and Jesus is the light, and he touches the person, he comes into contact with him more so. He doesn't touch him and his eyes can see again. It might be symbolically represented in that manner, but he touches him and bestows wisdom upon the individual, therefore he can see again. So when it says Jesus touched the person, he came into contact with him. He informed him. He taught him. And now the blind man could see because of the knowledge, because of the wisdom that was bestowed upon him by Jesus the teacher. Does that make any sense to anybody out there? I hope that it does. It's like the story of Jonah and the whale. It amazes me that people can consider themselves intelligent. They can make $500,000 a year. They can dress in fancy suits, all the material items, have a nice house, kids, a wife, maybe a mistress on the side. I don't know. They can have all the things in life that are considered to be the pinnacles of success because they're considered to be intelligent, because they have the ability to make all of this money. But yet, they are still lost, so they still go to church, and they still believe, not that it's a bad thing, but they still go to church and they still believe that a whale can physically swallow a man, put him in his stomach for 3 days, and then spit him back up. And the stomach acid, when I asked, I was like, what about the stomach acid? And the teacher told me, God intervened. Okay, what about all of the other crap that would make this inoperable? This would be impossible. Well, God intervened in every one of those aspects. Ask me a question, God intervened. Have faith, God intervened. Fine. We'll call it a miracle. But I find it strange that if he was in the whale's stomach for 3 days, this is the same amount of time that the Japanese goddess Amaterasu, representing the sun, was in the tomb for 3 days, and she brought life back to Earth, or brought the sun and brought the light back to the world from the darkness. After that 3-day period, and she rose from the grave. Jesus was in a tomb for 3 days, 3 nights. Then he rose and bring light back to the world, and everything regenerated. Same exact story, just a different region of the world, the Jesus story and the Japanese story. The 3 days that Lazarus was dead is an initiation ceremony. Lazarus come forth. Those are the words that are used in the initiation ceremonies in ancient Egypt in the Great Pyramid of Khufu or Cheops. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, the number 3. 3 days dead, 3 days risen. It is the winter solstice, essentially. It's an astronomical alignment that we get into at the end of this month. It is Yule, Saturnalia. The sun is dead and begins to rise from the winter solstice on the 21st to the night of the 24th, which brings us into Christmas, the birth of Jesus, the birth of the sun, bringing light and life back to the world. You can represent that person as a physical god, as a physical goddess, or as a mythological god or a mythological goddess. It has several aspects. It could be a physical person in Freemasonry experiencing through the first 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge, experiencing the death, the actual feeling that you will die, the lowering into the coffin, and the resurrection, mimicking the astronomical alignment in the heavens. It's taken from somewhere else. The stars, the planets, and the planetary bodies each are associated with different gods. Saturn, Jupiter, Venus. Different gods. But they're also planetary bodies that house the spirit of that god, which is why they were worshipped. These are the secret teachings. These are the secret teachings. Those who understand the secret teachings, or at least understand the ideas behind the secret teachings, or at least have an open mind to them, no longer are consumed with the material world. Doesn't mean that you don't enjoy, having a nice dinner or going to a sporting event or something like that. But life just starts to look very differently. For me personally, life has literally, and I'm not joking, literally, life has slowed down for me. Everything's not as fast. We live in a culture where everything is about instant gratification, moving quick. Got to get to your car quick, got to get to work quick, got to get done with work quick so you can get home quick, got to get home quick because you got to go to bed quick because you got to go to work again in the morning quick. At a certain time, you got to get up, you got to take a shower quick. You got to get your kids dressed for school quick because you got to get them to school quick before it's, before they're too late. And they got to get through school quick because you got something to do that night. You got to pick them up quick because you got something to do. You go do the thing you got to do. You got to get home quick because you got to get back in bed and get up for tomorrow. Or you got to get home because you got to watch a television show that's on TV. And you want to watch that quick because there's another show coming on at the same time this one ends. It's quick, fast, fast-paced. Everybody's moving at a very high rate, and they're not thinking about what they're doing. To me, the more I dive into the secret teachings, I have found that things physically seem to slow down. Now, maybe I'm speaking out of ignorance here. I would have really appreciated if anybody could email me. My email straight up is rdgable. It's rdgable@yahoo.com. rdgable@yahoo.com. I'll give it out one more time. It's rdgable@yahoo.com. Send me an email. I'll try to respond back as quickly as possible. I want to know if anybody else out there studying things like the Secret Teachings has found that after a while, the physical world actually starts to slow down. It doesn't mean that things aren't moving fast for everybody else. I'm obviously speaking to you in the same time frame that you're perceiving here, perhaps somewhat slower, perhaps somewhat faster, but everything seems to be slower. Like, I feel sometimes when I watch people that I can kind of see the vibration of the person, and I can kind of see them just in slow motion. Now, I don't do drugs. That includes aspartame. That includes caffeine. I take care of myself. I'm healthy. I don't meditate as much as I should. Once in a while, I'll play a video game. I'll go to a hockey game. But nothing else other than that. And I feel, as the more I dig into the Secret Teachings, that things begin to slow down physically. That's just a thought that I've had. Present it to you, throw it out there. Maybe somebody will get back to me with a similar experience, and perhaps we can talk about it on air one day. Here's the next article that I have. It says, mice implanted with human brain cells become smarter. Implanting mice with human astrocytes make them demonstrably more intelligent than their non-human hybrid peers. Well, of course, humans are more intelligent than rats. The genetics that separates a rat from a human are not so far, but I would think that in inserting cells from a human brain into a rat or any animal would make it more intelligent in some way, shape, or form. There are some humans, however, who probably need to be implanted with cells from some other type of animal or some other type of mammal that would make the human more intelligent. I think that there's a lot of people who have been implanted with donkey cells because there's a lot of asses out there. That's my opinion. But I think that as the more and more we mess with genetics and the more and more we mess with trying to study and learn the human mind, the more and more it's going to be co-opted and presented to you as a good thing, that you should be hooked up to a computer, that you should be hybridized, perhaps with an animal. The more and more we tamper with Mother Nature, the more and more that natural system is going to push back against you. And the more and more problems I think we will see later on in the future with the supposed evolution of the human species, something that I'm not sure how much longer humans will survive in the current capacity. It's not something that we should be scared of. It's just something we should be aware of. Here's the next article, phys.org, P-H-Y-S. That's phys.org. It says a limestone Venus, 23,000 years old, was dug up in France. It's just a little tiny limestone, little limestone carving, rather, of Venus, the goddess of love. The ancients worshipped the goddess. They worshipped Venus, the morning star, the blazing star, Lucifer, the bearer of light. Who is Lucifer, the bearer of light? Lucifer and Satan are two entities entirely different. Satan allows the physical world to manifest. Lucifer sheds light onto the physical world and makes things in the physical world difficult. Both are necessary, I think, because you have to have Satan, who is a necessary evil. You have to have necessary evil to balance out the good. You have to have the light, otherwise you have no way to navigate. Even if it's a trick, I think that you still have to have the light in some capacity, but the true light, not the one that the trickster presents you with, not the one that the god or Lucifer, or we even could throw in Prometheus, as I'm going to get into in the next segment, into the mix, or even the Polynesian god Maui, the trickster, bringing fire and light to mankind, deceiving the gods, but also, I think, tricking humans into believing that what they see is reality when in fact it's not. And that actually brings me to the very next article, and that is from Gizmodo.com, 10 reasons our universe might actually be a virtual reality. And I'm going to go ahead and go through these reasons. Are we ready for the 10 reasons that our universe may actually be a hologram? It looks like in this article in particular, though, it only gives me 5 in this article. So here's the 5 reasons that our universe might actually be a virtual reality. Our universe has a maximum speed. I've heard some theorize that the maximum speed, the speed of light, is only the boundary between this reality and the next. The same, our time is malleable. The third, our space curves. Number 2, dark energy and dark matter. And number 1, quantum entanglement. How essentially objects are tied together across distances of space that are so inconceivable we can't even begin to comprehend them in our current state of affairs. When people, listen, when people are fighting because, or starting riots because of black on white or white on black hatred, when people are munching down on fast food every day and then popping back a couple of pills that the drug reps gave the doctor to give to you to make that pharmaceutical company that much more wealthier, when people are lining up like proles to get a deal on a TV that if they just stayed at work for the 2 days they took off to camp out, they'd be able to buy the same TV and have money left over. When people are poisoning their kids, sometimes knowingly, and yet putting their hands over their ears, blind ignorance, and running around screaming, "Don't talk to me, I can't talk to you, this is no, I don't want to hear it." And when people are constantly deceived and tricked, even though they know they're being deceived and tricked, but they're even more deceived because once they know they're being deceived and tricked, they go to the items that distract them from that deception, and those items are the very things that are tricking them into being ignorant of what's deceiving and killing them spiritually, mentally, and physically in the first place. When people are like that, how can we even have a discussion about a concept that is so advanced as our reality could perhaps be a virtual experience? And the answer to that is you can't. You cannot have a discussion with people about those concepts. It is impossible. You can try, but they're going to ask you to stop, they're going to get angry with you, and they're going to ignore you and put their hands over their ears, even in some cases. Not everybody. Many people are aware. Many people are awake. When we have people, parents nowadays, knowingly, because they want to live their, pitiful childhood through their child, so they get their child to do what they wish they could have done as a kid. And not that parents that do this are bad, but it's just the parents that do this don't really know how to parent. They fill their daughters' minds, for example, with images of fairy tales and princesses. Not that it's not okay to tell a story about a fairy tale before you go to bed, but immersing yourself in it. Like, the best way to learn a language is to immerse yourself in that language, to move to that country and you'll learn the language. It's almost a guaranteed thing. People that immerse their children in princesses and Disney, and the little girl watches the movies and she wants to be a princess, and you can play around with it fine, but I'm talking about the ones that are really brainwashed. The ones that are really brainwashed. These people, have you ever noticed, like nowadays I'm realizing that, it used to be the moms with the little girls with like the princesses, they would at least dress up like a princess. Nowadays, the princess looks like she ate the prince, and it's like a 300-pound kid in a princess dress. I've seen this recently. It's really sad. I was going to say it's disgusting, in which it is, but it's really sad that kids are raised this way, where they're literally raised to be obese and have diabetes and be sick the rest of their lives because their parents are too damn lazy to do anything about the child's health. because the parent doesn't care. They're going to sit on the couch all night and watch American Idol while they put back a bag of chips and look at the exercise machine thinking, I'll start tomorrow. It's sad. I'm watching the structure of society be broken apart by the corporatism, by the consumerism, our dedication to purchasing items. Even the president said, after 9/11, the best thing that we can do is go shopping. That's America's pastime. Like George Carlin said, F baseball. It's consumerism. It's shopping. It's buying things. Buy, consume. The little girls that are brought up to become princesses, it's okay to play around with the idea, to role play with it as a kid, to play with your kids, but when the child really thinks they do, especially subconsciously, that they're a princess, especially with all this Frozen crap out now, it dilutes and damages the child. Because when that child becomes old enough to begin dating, they're going to throw away any decent man because they see that that decent man didn't show up, not literally, but on the proverbial steed as a prince to whisk them off their feet. That's how these little kids think. And sometimes, people might disagree with me because it's not everybody, but subconsciously that's what's in their mind. If they don't act like the guy in the movie, they're not a real man. Or the social conditioning that if a man does not have a truck and a beer gut, he's not a real man. That social conditioning that is literally a stereotype for a reason. It's a stereotype because it's been socially engineered into people, and that if that old time concept, if a woman's not in the kitchen, she's not a woman. That's another. There's the other stereotype, which ironically was part of the Rockefellers' plan to create the feminist movement. Part of the way that they've run these eugenics programs to split apart the male from the female, to break apart the family, so that the woman is married to the state and the guy is just an ignorant football-watching zombie. This is actually documented, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually part of the social engineering agenda. And this is what they've done. And they do it worse now. It's worse now because of the targeting of the children. And the same thing with little boys. I mean, with little girls, it's like princess stuff. With boys, it's like military stuff. Training the little kids to be subservient to the state. And see, if you really look at it, it makes a lot of sense. If the Rockefeller plan was to create the feminist movement and to break apart the family, silent weapons for a quiet war, to get the woman and the man to split apart, the woman marries the state, and the man essentially works for the state. He's a soldier. What do we see happening? We see women growing their children, their little girls up to be princesses and to be independent and not take crap from a man, which you shouldn't. You shouldn't take crap from a woman either. Growing your child up to think that no guy is good enough because you're independent and you can do it without a man, which is propaganda from these very people that are trying to and successfully enslaving you. These people growing their kids up in this way, the girls think that they're so independent that the only thing they need to do is be married to the state. And when I say married to the state, what I mean is shop, be a woman, be independent. Your independence is based upon how much money you can spend, how many things you can buy, what you can acquire. And the little boys are raised to treat women like garbage, so it doesn't help the situation. It makes it worse. And they're raised for the military, to work for the state, with Legos and with dolls and with video games. It's war, 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 war. Whether they're guns, bow and arrows, or swords. It's war, 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 war. Girls are deluded. Boys are brainwashed. Girls are brainwashed for that matter. Have you ever actually tried to talk to one of these parents who raise their kids in this manner? What they'll do is they'll put their hands over their ears and they'll say, no, 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 I can't hear it. Don't talk to me. I don't want to talk about it because I'm happy the way things are. knowing that something is wrong, and yet not doing anything about it, simply because you're too lazy, is just as wrong as if you were to say you have a bank robber and they're going to go to jail. Should the getaway driver go to jail too? He participated. If you knew that he was going to rob the bank and you said nothing to anybody about it, should you go to jail? Well, I guess so, because you were part of it. If you know that someone's abusing a child and you say nothing about it, you are just as guilty as the person who is abusing the child, whether you ever touched that child or even had the concept or the idea in your head that you would even want to. Even if you think it's disgusting and you want to keep your mouth shut and not say anything about it, by not saying anything about it, you are participating in the same exact way that the person who is harming the child is. You're covering it up. It's just as bad. Stop covering up other people's crimes because you're afraid of what those people will do to you mentally, emotionally, or physically. Stop being scared of everything. Constantly terrified of everything. Stop the fear. Stop being deceived by the trickster. When they tell you to go left, don't go left. Don't go right either. You choose your own path based upon what that little tiny voice tells you. That instinct tells you. Animals use instinct every day. How do you think birds are able to find themselves back to the same location that was there the last 10 years? How do you think animals know when it's going to rain? Instinct, instinct, instinct. And we are so detached from that. And even though we're so detached from the spiritual world, isn't it still so funny that most of us can still feel that as we are detached, we are still connected? That's how strong the connection to Mother Earth really is that no matter how detached we really are, truly, physically, materially, in the material physical world, 3D, grand illusion, we still have such a great connection to nature that we can still have that sixth sense to know when something's wrong. And when you know something's wrong and you don't do anything about it, you're just as guilty as the people perpetuating those crimes in the first place. That's why I do the secret teachings. This is me, once a week, telling you that I've had it, and I'm tired of it, and I'm tired of the lies, and I'm tired of the deception. And this is why I try to eat healthy, and I'm trying to inform other people of the exact same things that I put into my life. I'm not going to tell you to do it unless I do it. I'm not going to necessarily eat the healthiest and be the best and look like some supermodel, but that's not how humans are supposed to look. It's all made up. It's another trick. It's a lie. You've been deceived by the trickster. And when we come back to the secret teachings, we are going to talk about the trickster, Prometheus, Jesus, and Maui, bringing light to mankind, suffering for mankind, but also deceiving mankind. Lucifer, the bearer of light, the blazing star, the morning star, all of that and much more, including false flag events, coming up right here on The Secret Teachings. TheSecretTeachings.info is the website. This song is Ludovico Ionande, Nuvoli Bionasce. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
listening to The Secret Teachings. For more information, you can visit thesecretteachings.info, where you can find a full list of downloadable episodes, top news articles, links to our Facebook page, and ways to catch the show no matter where you're located. For questions, comments, or requests, you can email us at rdgable, that's rdgable at yahoo.com. Stay tuned.
At The Secret Teachings, we are not a part of any group, label, and we do not attempt to fearmonger. As some of the topics we discuss may seem scary, I advise you not to be afraid, but to be informed as we discuss current events, ancient history, philosophy, symbolism, the paranormal, comparative religions, the occult, alternative science, and much more. Remember that when someone claims to have the absolute truth, it is usually nothing but mere opinion, a perspective on how they view the world, or something they are simply repeating from someone or somewhere else. I am not here to tell you that what I say is truth, but to allow you to decide for yourself based on the evidence presented and the dots connected. Information is not negative. It is how you view it that determines the dimensional characteristics of either dual aspect of negativity or positivity. Even if we disagree, we should still be able to have a discussion without de facto fallacies of ad hominem name-calling and ridicule, not predicated on fact or reason, but on ignorance, pettiness, self-absorption, ego, and fear. To catch the show, we air every Saturday on the Dark Matter Radio Network at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, and every Sunday on the L&M Radio Network at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can also listen on planetparanormal.com and thesecretteachings.info for a full show archive. Try as you might, but no amount of disinformation, propaganda, rhetoric, or trolling on the internet will change the truth. The truth is the truth, regardless if the masses accept it as is, or if it is accepted by only one out of billions. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. For more information, I'm your host, Ryan Gable. You can visit the website, thesecretteachings.info. Namaste.
Tune into The Family Factor with Denny C. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 5 a.m. as he looks at all the challenges facing the family today. Denny will give you a refreshingly new look at tackling some of the biggest issues. So start your day off on the right foot with Denny C. and The Family Factor, right here on the New Spark Radio Network and K98Talk.com.
The vast networks and intricate web spun over all these years by the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA can't find Osama bin Laden, but CNN can? Bullshit.
In Afghanistan, we removed the Taliban government, which had given bin Laden and al-Qaeda safe haven and support.
Can you talk about your executive order of financing covert funding to the Taliban in 1979 with Zbigniew Brzezinski?
Yeah, that was a very important thing for me to do. So I gave them help all I could through the governments of Saudi Arabia and Egypt, just Soviet-made weapons. And then when President Reagan came in office, he greatly expanded that program. So it was the right thing to do.
Yo, you told the soldiers fight for God, got them slaughtering kids. Now they sick, taking naked flicks at Abu Ghraib. DJ White. Step back, not evolution for the torturer. Fight for resolution, revolution through an orchestra. There's more to the regime change than democracy. Hypocrisy so the elite can keep their monopoly. Why so few control so much of the wealth? How you gonna stop corporate criminals? You are in yourself. In business with the Bin Ladens, rich off of Enron. Iraq building contracts, the Cheney is dead wrong. And Rumsfeld don't even know how a gun sells. Let him fight his own battle, faggot wouldn't shoot one shell. But they'll recruit high schools for young kids. Give them guns with lasers, make them run up in some crib. To take a hostage, no rights in Guantanamo. We onto those snakes, make them fall like dominoes. Cause now they talking about delaying the election. Scare us with terror alerts and say it's for protection. Won't let the UN count the votes afraid cause we are destined to take away their power, break away from their oppression. Tell these faces we ain't with that segregation. We want mind elevation, healthcare legislation, worldwide medication. Answers why they not interrogating Bin Laden's family, just taking them back to the Saudis while they hit us with the Patriot Act. We want proof, where's your truth? Start facing the facts. Where's the bombs that Saddam used to make in Iraq? You either stupid or a liar, start facing the fact that you have no God, you have no honor to defend your father who made this Osama, been paid from Bin Laden, Saddam and the Taliban. Whose oil are you putting in your caravan? You have no God, you have no honor to defend your father who made this Osama, been paid from Bin Laden, Saddam and the Taliban. Whose oil are you putting in your caravan?
You know that I'm the type to fight, I'm willing to brawl. If it still isn't right, we can kill them all. We can go to war with all these motherfuckers in the sand. We can take it to the Saudis, now we make them understand. With the working class jerking that M60. But if I'm going out, I'm taking them with me. And tell me which lies are the generated push lies. From the Reagan administration right down into these Bush guys. Manipulate the media and make it like you switch sides. Economics trickle down, greedy or rich guys. A tickle pink and it's sick to think while we eating chicken wings, thinking how to stick the brink. Sick of things are happening inside of my head. We can't get Osama now, so here's Saddam instead. Sandy battlefields are bloody and they rotting in red. While Al-Qaeda got a camera and they chopping our heads. And this is your America, mine has never been oil. Mr. Bush, no, we never made the president royal. Put your crown on that ground, the same ground that gave you your dollars and pounds, rubles and your yens. And look what you created, sir, cause truly you are them. There's a 911 America, the president is them. With his hand on the Bible, watch the devil in his sin. When his blood spills, know that he was never innocent.
No, you have no God, you have no honor to defend your father who made this Osama, been paid from Bin Laden, Saddam and the Taliban. Whose oil are you putting in your caravan? You have no God, you have no honor to defend your father who made this Osama, been paid from Bin Laden, Saddam and the Taliban. Yeah. Whose oil are you putting in your caravan? Let me explain why my heart is in pain. You trade lies for loot and claim fair market exchange. When my main from the block hit the Marines at 17, exposed his soul to horrible killing he's never seen. Lost more than 50 pounds, trekking across the desert ground. Afghanistan, he's soon to hit Iraq with heavy weapon rounds. Yo, E, rep your town, cause the beam got your back. I'm just heated at the current regime scheme of attack. The president dodged drafts, drive drunk and stiff cane. Claim Clinton should have been impeached for digging chicks' brains. They think it's sane and it's plain that the priorities. Stealing Florida by blocking votes from minorities. Want police, state authority. Nazi mind control conformity. World war like when we stormed Normandy. Cheney's the brainy, Dr. Evil with a broke heart. Bush Sr. runs the country, Junior couldn't run a go-kart. They start wars, use attacks to buy their bombs. They're crazy rich from alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. And Bin Laden ain't gon' never get handled, man. Only wanted to build a pipeline through Afghanistan. Osama's father laundered more cash. Every time we pour gas, we'll ghetto you catch bullets and they pour ass. How can we compete when their base is the elite? Well, I guess our only option is to take it to the streets. The last thing we wanted is to reach a civil war. If our ass ain't living free, then what are we living for? The last thing we wanted was to start a civil war. But if our ass ain't living free, what the fuck we living for? No, you have no God, you have no honor to defend your father who made this Osama, been paid from Bin Laden, Saddam and the Taliban. Whose oil are you putting in your caravan? You have no God, you have no honor to defend your father who made this Osama, been paid from Bin Laden, Saddam and the Taliban. Whose oil are you putting in your caravan?
Did you know that official history acknowledges that the banking panic of 1907 was orchestrated by a small cabal of bankers? This panic would lead to the creation of the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, written by bankers, not lawmakers. President Woodrow Wilson was elected under the promise that he would sign the act into law. Not long after, the passenger ship by the name of the Lusitania was sunk. The Lusitania, full of explosives, had sailed into waters containing German U-boats. Despite the fact that the Imperial German Embassy took out ads in the New York Times telling Americans to stay off the ship, the USA entered into World War I. This has been an alternative fact brought to you by The Secret Teachings. Did you know that during the early years of the 1920s, bankers began yet another panic similar to the Panic of 1907? They then exited the market before contracting the money supply and calling in most loans. This resulted in a run on the banks and the Great Depression. Did you know that in Congressional Record, the United States of America was declared bankrupt, and not long after, the Social Security number was issued, making all citizens commodities to the U.S. corporation rather than the U.S. Republic. It was also at this time that FDR outlawed the private ownership of gold. This has been an alternative fact brought to you by The Secret Teachings.
I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy.
But why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
The person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat.
Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.
Welcome back to The Secret Teachings. I'm your host, Ryan Gable. This song in the background is called Systems by Tycho. The song we heard previous at the break was a song mixed again by DJ Wired. It was called Fahrenheit 9/11 by La Coca Nostra. La Coca Nostra, Fahrenheit 9/11, mixed by my good friend DJ Wired. This is The Secret Teachings. If you're just joining us, you've missed a really good episode today. We have talked about primarily the trickster, and the trickster in all aspects of our culture and our world, the collective conscious that is humanity, what we perceive to exist. We have talked about the trickster in terms of health and in food and in politics, religion and science and education. The trickster in the social conditioning conformity, the conformist consumers of this country and around the world. People who are literally conditioned to believe that the best thing that they can do to achieve happiness is to buy. From the very people who are attempting and successfully enslaving you as a person. There's no need to wiretap anybody anymore because you buy wiretaps for your homes. But they dress them up in an Xbox One. They don't have to bug your home with a video camera. You buy an Xbox One or you buy an iPhone and you leave it by your head all night. And these individuals who are in these positions of power, who have access to these systems, including the companies who sell your information for money, are able to tap into that at any time. Don't be fooled that there's a lot of fear around the spy state, but a lot of it has to do with advertisements. A lot of it has to do with money. And ironically enough, consumerism, purchasing things, business, sell, buying things, getting you to believe that what you want is actually what you need. It's an artificial need. And by getting you to need what you only want, you have to get money to get that. And how do you get money? Get a job. You become a slave working night and day to pay for these items that have no meaning, but they give you a little bit of hope that you feel fulfilled for a couple of moments when you purchase them, but then it's a small high, and it's a drug. Just like caffeine, just like aspartame, and all of the other drugs that are not considered hard drugs, but are kind of worse for you than some of the hard drugs that people take. I mean, caffeine is a little bit worse for you. In fact, a lot worse for you than marijuana is, and yet marijuana is still illegal most places in the world, but caffeine is perfectly legal, and people are having heart attacks daily because of caffeine overdose. But as long as the diet soda doesn't have as many calories, then I guess it doesn't matter about the caffeine and the aspartame. I mean, this is the kind of messed up mentality that we have, but who can really blame the people who have been deceived because they don't know they're being tricked by the trickster? And that's what I wanted to get into here in the final hour of the Secret Teachings. I wanted to get into who is this mysterious trickster who is found throughout all mythologies, even very localized mythologies on small islands that seem to have no contact with other regions of the world. The trickster is a very prominent character, so much so that the trickster is even featured in gold at Rockefeller Center in New York. You could Google a picture of it if you ever watched the show 30 Rock, 30 Rockefeller Center, the address to the building, NBC, owning General Electric, the big defense contractor. There is a big image, a big statue of Prometheus bringing fire to man. Now, that sounds like a good thing, right? Prometheus, or the god, bringing man fire. Well, did he bring him physical fire? And this is where the ancient alien people could come in and say, yeah, there was a guy named Prometheus. He got off the ship, and he had like a stick with fire on it, like one of those what do they call them? The tiki sticks you buy for your backyard. And he brought it down to man, and he set it there on the ground, and man discovered the tiki stick with the fire. Literally, physically. But that's not how it happened. It's a mythology. Maybe it did happen that way. I don't know. Fire's symbolic. It's just like Jesus healing the blind. Did he actually heal them by physically touching them because they could not see? Or did he heal them of their ignorance by presenting to them the truth and the wisdom? And that wisdom is the fire. The fire allows you to see. It lightens up that dark room where the things you truly need are located and not the fake material items that are lit up by the artificial light. This is true light. This is fire. This is the wisdom. This is the knowledge. Prometheus brings fire to man. It also says in the mythology that man was somewhat molded out of clay by Prometheus. It's just like God molded man out of clay. Now, there's a lot of this myth that if you've ever seen the movie Prometheus, kind of goes in to this story, or there's a lot of this story, rather, the myth in the movie. So I'd recommend watching that movie with an esoteric eye open, your third eye perhaps, and just kind of seeing how this plays out in the movie. There's another one being made, a Prometheus 2, probably in the next couple of years. But the myth says that Prometheus brings fire to man. Now, if fire is wisdom and knowledge, this can be viewed in several different ways. That's a good thing, right? We want wisdom. However, if the average person is enlightened, the power structure has never wanted that. The Romans did not want that. This is why they persecuted Jesus, and what today are the Qumranians, or the Nazarenes at the time, the Nazarites of the secret society that Jesus was a part of, as he is initiating others into these secret teachings. The empire did not like that, so they had to crack down upon that. Just like politically we have the same type of crackdown on people who think for themselves, like the thought police coming out onto the streets. Nowadays, we have thought police today, ladies and gentlemen. George Orwell was not predicting something that was going to take place, 10,000 years from now. It was history repeating itself from World War II and what took place in East Germany. And then we see the same thing happening today. But if fire is good, and fire brings light, and fire brings wisdom and knowledge, why would the elites, especially the Rockefellers, put a statue of Prometheus in front of Rockefeller Center in New York? That would seem kind of strange. That would be like, making a statue of Osama bin Laden and putting him in the Oval Office. It would seem strange to have your supposed enemy right there in front of you promoting it. I think that there's an esoteric condition to this. I think that we have to look at it from several points of view. Yes, fire symbolically represents wisdom or knowledge, but fire representing wisdom or knowledge, fire is just fire. Fire is illuminating. Now, Lucifer is also a bringer of fire from the heavens, or to man, rather. If Lucifer is a bearer of light, we see Lucifer as bad, but somehow we see Prometheus as good for bringing fire to mankind. I think we have to understand. I don't see Lucifer as bad either, by the way. There's no negativity to Lucifer. In fact, I used to say that Lucifer, the bearer of light, he's bringing us light. He's the one we should be worshiping, which I fell into that trap of the trickster as well. That's what the trickster does, is he tricks you into thinking that the light is good, when in fact the light is actually bad. It's the darkness that can be good, because the darkness can lead to light. If you shine a light into the dark, you realize it's not so dark. It's actually extremely illuminating. Once you can begin to illuminate that room, you see the things that will lead to wisdom. As wisdom is not bestowed, it is achieved. So Prometheus bringing fire to man is the trick. The trick is, it's not fire in the sense of wisdom. It's kind of like the spreading of disinformation more so than anything else. Like when the media talks about things like fluoride or something, it's like, well, no way they covered that. Are you kidding me? No way they covered that. There's got to be an agenda at hand. And when they do cover vaccinations or something, there is an agenda at hand. So you'll see on the news coming up at 6, we're going to talk about vaccinations and how some people say they could lead to autism. And you're like, wow, I got to sit down and watch that. They're actually talking about it. I'm amazed. So you sit down and watch it, and they're saying, well, some people think it could lead to autism, but most doctors disagree. And then they show you the doctors who there was actually a documentary done by high schoolers about this that got a lot of prominence in the media. I won't promote it or even tell you the name, not that I could remember it anyway, but there was a doctor on there that said, these people that don't like vaccinations, they're radical. These are terrorists. Like, really, you're a terrorist for studying history and understanding that the military and the U.S. government and governments around the world have consistently, on the most consistent basis of anything else, have used vaccinations to call the population with these different diseases, AIDS, HIV, cancer, and all these other types of different autoimmune system disorders that have gone around, along with other diseases that have spread, including just simply death, like the Nazi vaccination programs, part of the eugenics movement. And then I'm crazy and I'm a terrorist for thinking, hey, there might be something more in that vaccination but mercury, or even to say that mercury is one of the most toxic metals to the human body, and yet we're okay with injecting it into our children because the white lab coat said so. I mean, really, I'm the terrorist for suggesting that history repeats itself. I guess I'm a terrorist. I guess we're all terrorists. You're a terrorist for listening to this show right now, according to the state. It's like a joke, but it's not a joke. If you look at the documents the Department of Homeland Security puts out on their own website. I printed a bunch of them out where everything is suspicious. Wearing jeans is suspicious. Paying with cash is suspicious. Yawning is suspicious. Goosebumps is suspicious. Drawing a picture out in public is suspicious. Taking photographs is suspicious. Drinking coffee. Having bad breath. Having yellow fingernails. Having, or not cutting your fingernails was another one. Sleeping in public is an act of terrorism, or at least a possible indication that you might commit an act of terrorism. Everything that you do could be an act of terrorism, so you can be detained and held because you could be a terrorist. Just like in some cities like Orlando, it's illegal to do almost everything that a homeless person would need to do to survive. So they just make everything illegal, so they can do anything they want to the homeless people because they're always breaking the law. But Prometheus bringing fire to man, he's bringing wisdom, he's bringing knowledge, he's bringing information. But that fire also represents just physical fire, illumination, but physical fire in the spiritual sense. And what I mean by that is by Saturn or Satan creating and constructing the physical world, creating and constructing the box, and then putting the human consciousness into the box. Lucifer makes life difficult. I think they're both necessary evils in that they train you, in that they force you to learn. And if you don't learn from your first mistake, you must make that mistake again. In one esoteric sense, you have to keep making that mistake to learn, to move on, to grow as a person. The light, illuminates, as Lucifer is the bearer of light, illuminates the physical world. It allows you to see. It brings the prison cell closed. It locks the prison cell. And once the prison cell is locked, then the lights come on, and it seems like you're not really in a prison anymore. It feels like you're out in the real world. Everything's real. You can touch the grass. You can smell the air. You can eat the food. You can touch the women. You can touch the men. You can do whatever you want. because that's life. This is physical existence. This is life, and the purpose of life is to just do whatever makes you happy. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, says the beast, says Aleister Crowley. But what it is really an extension of that prison system. If you put people in a big enough box, they won't really realize they're in a box. If you put people in a 10 by 10 prison cell, they realize they're in a prison cell. If you put people in a pasture, in a green field, you put the sheep out there, and you make the limits of that field 10 miles by 10 miles, and most of those sheep don't travel any more than a couple of 100 yards a day, they don't really realize they're in a box. Kind of like that article we talked about from Gizmodo.com, our universe being a virtual reality. It's difficult for us to conceive of the concepts of the speed of light, but perhaps outside of the speed of light, outside of that boundary, in large, large terms, in astronomical terms, literally and figuratively, that's the boundary of our prison. We can leave Earth, we can go to other planets, we can explore the solar system, but our prison wall is the speed of light. Perhaps that is what Prometheus brought to man. He brought to him fire, but illumination of what we perceive to be reality, but is really the prison cell that we are in, and we are choosing, knowingly in some cases, to continue to enslave ourselves based on ignorance and arrogance and laziness and fear. The story of Prometheus actually goes that man had fire before Zeus took it back. And once Zeus, or Jesus, the chief god, lived on Mount Olympus, the different mountains and the stories of the mountains represent the pyramids and things like that, and in the mythological sense, the symbolic sense, and an assortment of other esoteric lore, Prometheus comes and he steals the fire back from the gods. So when he stole the fire from the gods, it's only because the gods had taken it from man in the first place, and he gives it back to man. Kind of like how you look at like how politicians work together and they look like they hate each other. We hate you Republicans. We hate you Democrats. But then they'll go to lunch together and share prostitutes and things like that. It's kind of like the gods working together. It looks like they hate each other, but they really don't. But Prometheus' punishment for taking fire from the gods and giving it back to mankind was essentially to be bound to a rock where an eagle, which was Jupiter, would feed on his liver. And each day as the eagle fed on his liver, the liver would grow back, and it was a slow torment, but he was bound to the rock. He suffered for humanity in the same way that Jesus suffered for humanity by being crucified and then pierced in the side by the spear of Longus, which is just like Odin hanging on the world tree and being pierced in the side with the spear. You want to see an image of that? That is actually on thesecretteachings.info. It's in my book, The Grand Illusion. You can get that on the website, thesecretteachings.info. But if you go to the website, you can find on the homepage a picture of Odin with the spear on his side, just like Mithras hanging on the cross, just like Jesus hanging on the cross. Same sun gods, same gods. The mythology all kind of ties in together. It can get complex, but I'm trying to make it simplistic today. Prometheus suffered for man as well, just as Jesus suffered for man. Lucifer, as the light bearer, was also cast from heaven. Prometheus, as the bringer of fire or the bringer of light, was also cast out of heaven by the gods. Same character. There's also a myth on the Polynesian islands of the god Maui, who supposedly created the islands because he went fishing one day and he reeled the islands in together, how he stole fire from the underworld. So underworld, hell, the goddess Hel, H-E-L, hell, fire in the underworld, and Maui stole that fire to bring it to man. But again, it is light in the physical 3D world. It's the light that we see. That's the deception of the trickster. That's the trick, is that it allows us to see, but to see what? To see reality or to see the fake reality, to see the grand illusion, to see the prison that we've been placed into, on all levels, for that matter. That's what I think it is. I don't know what you think. That's what I think it is. That's the trickster. The trickster tricks you. You think the light is good. You go towards the light. A lot of people in near-death experiences will tell you maybe what other spirits have told them to actually stay away from the light. Some people believe that, some people don't. I don't know, but in this case, I think the NDEs, the near-death experiences, could have a little bit to do, or at least why people don't go towards the light, with this concept of the mythological trickster. Because by going towards the light, you're actually going towards the very thing that is enslaving you, that is trying to deceive you. It's really about darkness and light, and just like last week we talked about the turning of the wheel of the year and the Mother Goddess, or Mother Earth, it's a cycle is what it is. Life, death, rebirth, life, death, rebirth, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, Mother, the Father, the Son, Mother, the Father, the Daughter, the Holy Ghost, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, whatever you call it, the Holy Ghost, the dove, which is Queen Semiramis, and then you have, of course, Tammuz, you have Nimrod, you have Ishtar and Babylon. There's just so many different variations of these myths. It all has to do with sacred geometry. It all has to do with numbers. It has to do with, I think, an understanding of the mathematics that go into the formation of the universe, and it could be a literal prison, it could be a figurative prison. When it comes down to fire, fire does represent illumination and wisdom. My question is, why would somebody like the Rockefellers promote a guy who brings knowledge to everybody when they so adamantly try to oppose it? Therefore, I believe that they worship this creature, this god, this entity, in terms of Lucifer, the light bearer, that the light was brought to man, but only to keep him in a prison and not to free him. You could look at it in the sense that a nuclear weapon or nuclear technology could be used to create a nuclear weapon to destroy a city, or it can be used to power a city. The light can be used to free mankind or to enslave mankind. The technology that we have today is so advanced, but when we are slowly given the technology with the iPads and the tablets and things like that, we think this is the cutting edge of mankind, when in reality it's beyond anything you could conceive of. And the technology you have today was the technology of 50 years ago. But you're just bought off and happy with what you have now. That's all that they're giving you. And you're happy with it. You're afraid if you say anything else, you're considered loony, you're crazy, and that's where the conditioning and social control comes back in. But in relationship to the trickster, some of the greatest tricksters of the day have to do with government and politics. And I think it's important because today is the anniversary, or at least when depending on when you're listening to this, the previous day might have been the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, December 7th of 1941. December 7th, 1941, the United States was supposedly attacked by Japan, but it was a surprise attack that supposedly nobody knew about. This is what we call a false flag, because we do know now that Roosevelt was quite aware that the attack was coming and allowed it to happen to use it as justification for World War II, to enter into World War II. Because he used the same rhetoric that Wilson used at World War I. We're not going to be involved in a war. We're not going to be involved in another war. The sons and daughters of America will not be involved in another war. Oh, the Japanese attacked us. We have to go to war. That's the kind of thing that is the rhetoric and the propaganda. But let's put that to the side for a moment and we'll understand what a false flag is. A false flag is the flying of the flag of your enemy while you attack yourself, therefore to gain support of the people that something must be done to that enemy that attacked you. And all the people come together, and they say, we have to do something about this. And you say, well, we could go to war, we could destroy the economy, and we can make a bunch of money for ourselves as individuals, not you, the people, but ourselves and the people that we work for, the defense contractors and the corporations and the nation builders, make a lot of money for them by supporting both sides. And the people say, I don't care, just do something about the enemy so we can go buy another Xbox. We need the new Xbox. We need the new TV. We need the new car. We need to go to the new fancy restaurant because people won't think we're cool. People won't think we're fancy. People won't think we're popular if we don't. Just go to war. We don't care as long as we can still watch TV. As long as Honey Boo Boo's still on, I don't care who you invade and who you kill. That's the mentality of most people. But it's the flying of the flag of your enemy to get the people, the population, to believe that your enemy attacked you, when in fact you attacked yourself, flying the flag of that enemy. Therefore, you get the people to believe the enemy attacked you, you have to do something about it. Therefore, the false flag has been used for a long time because it's not a difficult concept to grasp. And I'm going to go down a list of different occurrences throughout history to give you an idea that it's not something that's confined to 9/11. It's something that is historically It's littered throughout history. History is littered, rather, with these false flag events. These are just some of the larger ones, and one of them, of course, Pearl Harbor. I'll expand on a little bit more because this is the anniversary, December 7th of 1941. One of the first ones that came to mind was the USS Maine. The USS Maine, which sunk on February 15th of 1898. It's just dyslexic when I think of things like this. 1898, when the Maine exploded and sank. This led to the Spanish-American War. The sinking of the Lusitania, which happened on May 1st, another one of those crazy holidays. Not that the sinking happened on May 1st, but the passenger ship actually left port from New York to Liverpool on May 1st. And this was during a time when the Americans had declared neutrality in the First World War. This was after the central bank in 1913 was created. We even know that the banking panic of 1907 was a false flag, essentially. It was a manipulation. The Great Depression was a manipulation by the bankers. People were tricked by the bankers, who are the tricksters, which is why they worship Prometheus. They put the statue of Prometheus in front of the Rockefeller building in New York City. They are the tricksters. That's why they honor that entity, because they are the tricksters. 1907 banking panic led to the creation of the Federal Reserve. That led to World War I, and that led to the Great Depression, which led, in some cases here in the U.S., to World War II, because it would rebuild the economy. Then you have Pearl Harbor, which led us getting into World War II. You have the Northwoods documents after that, trying to cause a war to break out during the Cold War, to create a physical war, not just the aggression and the spying, the hatred towards one another. It just goes on and on and on. So May 1st, 1915, the passenger ship, the Lusitania, set sail from New York to Liverpool. The U.S. declared neutrality. And the thing about it is the Germans actually took out ads in the New York newspapers telling Americans, stay off the ship. Any ship traveling into the war zone can be subject to fire from German U-boats. Now, it doesn't sound like the Germans are that crazy. It sounds pretty logical to me, saying, hey, United States, if you send a boat into a war zone, even if you're not attacking anybody, you declare neutrality, there's a good chance that boat's going to get blown up anyway. That's just common sense. Well, even though the U.S. had declared neutrality, they were shipping more than people. They were sending more than people to Britain, because on the passenger ship, there were large amounts of armaments. Now, this obviously broke the U.S.'s neutrality, and the deaths of the civilians on the ship when the ship was attacked by German U-boats, it included 100 children, and it of course, that was promoted in the media. 100 children died. The Germans are evil. And this brought about enough anger to justify against the sons and daughters of America will no longer be involved in another war, will not be involved in another world war, to put that rhetoric aside and say we need to go to war because we were attacked. It was provoked, self-inflicted. I have the notice, actually, right here in front of me that the Germans put into the newspapers. Only one newspaper actually printed the notice in New York. All the other newspapers refused. Why do you think that is? It says, notice travelers intending to embark on the Atlantic voyage are reminded that a state of war exists between Germany and her allies and Great Britain and her allies, that the zone of war includes the waters adjacent to the British Isles, that in accordance with the formal notice given by the Imperial German government, vessels flying the flag of Great Britain or of any of her allies are liable to destruction in those waters, and that travelers sailing in the war zone on ships of Great Britain or her allies do so at their own risk. How many people you think actually saw that in the newspaper that chose to print it before they boarded that ship? And they were used as a sacrifice. May 1st is an important day. May 1st is a very important day. After the Beltane Festival, the creation of the Bavarian Illuminati, the death of bin Laden, the invasion of Iraq, May 1st, the Battle of Lexington Concord, that whole period leading up to May, from April, the different shootings, Columbine, the Virginia Tech shooting, the BP oil spill, Waco, Texas, then later on the Waco gas plant explosion, all these different days that are tied around explosions and fire and death. Even the Murrah building, even Oklahoma City bombing took place during this time of the year, around that 13-day period from like April 18th to May 1st, around that time period. All of these different events took place around the Beltane Festival, especially the school shootings and the death of children, and of course 100 children were killed on the Lusitania when it sank. After that, 1933, Hitler burns down his own parliament building, the Reichstag, in 1933. This allowed him to pass the Enabling Act, or the Reichstag Fire Decree, which basically says that German rights are suspended. There is a suspension of free press, free speech, free assembly, your ability to do, practice anything freely. The government now has restricted all that, including they've taken control of communications networks, mail, everything. It's a state of martial law, just like 9/11 and the Patriot Act. Pearl Harbor, the big one, today's anniversary, 1941, December 7th. This was used as justification for the invasion into World War II. In 1948, I found this interesting. In 1948, there was this German Gestapo chief named Heinrich Müller who said that the Germans had intercepted a conversation between Franklin Roosevelt, the U.S. president, and Winston Churchill, the prime minister, whose advisor was actually Aleister Crowley, where Churchill informed Roosevelt that he knew of the location of the missing Japanese ships that had left Japan. Now, most people don't know this. Winston Churchill actually told Roosevelt that they're heading towards Pearl Harbor. He said, quote, "I can assure you that their goal is the fleet in Hawaii at Pearl Harbor," according to a transcript from Heinrich Müller, the Gestapo chief. Roosevelt responded by saying, quote, "I will have to consider the entire problem. A Japanese attack on us would result in war." He continued by stating that such an attack would certainly fulfill two of the most important requirements of our policy: what I don't know can't hurt me and cannot understand messages at a distance. So Roosevelt knew about it far, far in advance and allowed it to happen. So what does that say about our history? Allowing somebody to attack you, or attacking yourselves, that they're both false flag events, because you're going to hang the blame on the enemy, even if you could have stopped them. And with the attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941, the United States entered into World War II. Some research, including my own, I found that the Germans had even attempted to warn the Americans once again. Roosevelt's Secretary of War at the time, Henry Stimson, who was a member of the Skull and Bones Society, was actually quoted saying that, quote, "We face the delicate question of diplomatic fencing to be done, as to be sure Japan is put into the wrong and makes the first bad overt move." Once again, we have an open admittance that this is true. That the U.S. was quite aware that the Japanese were going to attack. Now, when Roosevelt died in office towards the end of World War II in 1945 and was succeeded by his Vice President Harry S. Truman, who was also a Freemason, Truman decided to refuse Japan's terms of surrender. Did you know that? Japan actually had surrendered, or at least given terms of surrender to the United States, and Truman refused those terms of surrender and instead ordered the atomic bombing of Hiroshima on August 6th of 1945 and Nagasaki on August 9th of 1945. You see, 6 and 9 plus 3 days in between, just derivatives of 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Once the bombs had been dropped, Truman then accepted the Japanese terms of surrender. That's a little-known fact that most people are unaware of, that Japan surrendered. Truman said, "No, thank you. let's drop these bombs first because we have them. We might as well do it. And then once the bombs were dropped, then Truman said, we'll accept those terms of surrender. In between this and the Cold War, where we were afraid of nuclear weapons because we saw the power of them in 1945, which is why those bombs were dropped, to later be used as justification to extend the Cold War, to be used as the fear to put onto the people all over the world. In between all of that and Northwoods, you had General George S. Patton, who wanted to go into Russia after World War II and just to take out the Soviets right then and there, but then he mysteriously dies in a car wreck before he was able to really gain support. I think he was assassinated because he no longer served the agenda once he made the decision to not go along with what the agenda was trying to promote, and that was fear, 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 fear at the time. They weren't trying to provoke another war at that time. It was all about fear, which is why the bombs were dropped in the first place. So then, the U.S. wanted an excuse to invade Cuba because of the Russian, what they call communists. I say what they call communists because I don't really like these terms. Communist buildup of weapons in Cuba. So the Joint Chiefs of Staff and L.L. Lemonster write up this document called Northwoods, where they had plans to blow up, planes with civilian passengers on them, hijack them, fly them into buildings, create terror campaigns, kill boatloads of kids, blow up planes or trucks at U.S. Military bases and blame it on the Cubans to use that as justification to invade Cuba. Kennedy said no. He was assassinated not too long after that, but Kennedy said no to that. Just an example of the false flags. I mean, it was open. You can find these documents online, declassified. I think they're even on the secretteachings.info under the PDF tab. After that, you had the Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964, Vietnam. It was August 2nd, actually. August 2nd of 1964. This is also known as the Maddox incident of Maddox, or the Maddox incident. It was the USS Maddox, a destroyer ship, which was performing an intelligence patrol, was engaged by the North Vietnamese torpedo boats, supposedly, and was attacked twice. Well, it turns out that was used as justification to enter into an extended war with Vietnam, or with the Vietnamese, North Vietnamese, which is something that Kennedy had tried to withdraw troops from Vietnam, one of the things he wanted to do, as well as disband the CIA, to break them into a million splinters, or to splinter them into a million pieces. I forget the quote. But Johnson, LBJ, the guy that ordered pants, we had that clip of him ordering pants, he reversed all of the things that Kennedy had done prior to his assassination, including allowing the lie about the attacks on the USS Maddox to be promoted to justify the current invasion and to justify an extended invasion of North Vietnam. And then we move ahead to 9/11, which speaks for itself. There's nothing really I can say about that. That just really does speak for itself. And what can we learn from all of this? From the USS Maine to the Lusitania to the Reichstag fire to Pearl Harbor to the death of General S. Patton, to Northwoods, to the Gulf of Tonkin, to 9/11, the false flag events. We are constantly being deceived. We are constantly being tricked. That's the point. We're being tricked by the trickster. They try to show us light, like we need to go get the bad guys. That's the light, but that's the deception. Those aren't the bad guys. The bad guys are the ones saying, hey, those are the bad guys. And we look over there. Our attention, again, is diverted, as I said at the beginning of the show. While we look over there, the people pointing over there are the ones who are orchestrating the death and the destruction. The real terrorists are the ones that are pointing the finger at others and saying, you're the terrorist. Those are the real terrorists, ladies and gentlemen. This is The Secret Teachings. I am your host, Ryan Gable. We've gone through an assortment of different topics today. The underlying theme of today's show, though, conformist consumers and the trickster in relation to false flag terror. Today, the anniversary of Pearl Harbor in 1949. 70-plus years ago, the U.S. was supposedly attacked by surprise, even though Roosevelt was told by Churchill that the Japanese were planning to attack the fleet at Pearl Harbor, which is why most of the ships were bound together there. Otherwise, they could have been sent out to sea very easily and not grouped together like a video game. We have been deceived for so long that when we hear someone tell us the truth nowadays, we put our hands over our ears and we run away, because deception has become such a norm that people are amazed and feel awkward about the truth. You can lie to somebody's face, lie. Yeah, eventually they're probably going to get mad at you, but as long as you're lying, that's the norm. But the minute you tell the truth, you can destroy everything. You can destroy relationships, destroy your job, destroy your livelihood, because you told somebody the truth. Now, doesn't that show you, shouldn't that be one of like the laws of this virtual reality, how to determine you're living in a fake reality? When you tell the truth, something that your sixth sense tells you to do, when they tells you something's not right, and you decide to take that path to find the truth, to find the wisdom through the dark, and you get to the other side, and you tell someone the truth, and they deny it because they're so used to lies and deception, what does that say about the world we live in? What does that say about your fellow human? We've been tricked, is what it says. We have been tricked. We have been deceived. We have become slaves to ourselves. We've kept ourselves enslaved by the very things that we think would free us. In reality, they enslave us. I'm going to play a quick song here, just a little bit of it, called, I believe it's called Problem Reaction Solution by COG. C-O-G talks a little bit about the sinking of the Lusitania, actually, in false flags. We'll come back and we'll finish up the show for today. I'm your host, Ryan Gable. This is The Secret Teachings. TheSecretTeachings.info is the website. That is TheSecretTeachings.info. Please help us by donating to the show. You can get a free show archive on the website as well, all of our past episodes and the top news. Stay tuned. We'll be right back to The Secret Teachings. Everybody open their minds to the secret teachings and stop being deceived by the trickster. At The Secret Teachings, we are not a part of any group, label, and we do not attempt to fearmonger. As some of the topics we discuss may seem scary, I advise you not to be afraid, but to be informed as we discuss current events, ancient history, philosophy, symbolism, the paranormal, comparative religions, the occult, alternative science, and much more. Remember that when someone claims to have the absolute truth, it is usually nothing but mere opinion, a perspective on how they view the world, or something they are simply repeating from someone or somewhere else. I am not here to tell you that what I say is truth, but to allow you to decide for yourself based on the evidence presented and the dots connected. Information is not negative. It is how you view it that determines the dimensional characteristics of either dual aspect of negativity or positivity. Even if we disagree, we should still be able to have a discussion without de facto fallacies of ad hominem name-calling and ridicule, not predicated on fact or reason, but on ignorance, pettiness, self-absorption, ego, and fear. To catch the show, we air every Saturday on the Dark Matter Radio Network at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, and every Sunday on the L&M Radio Network at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can also listen on planetparanormal.com and thesecretteachings.info for a full show archive. Try as you might, but no amount of disinformation, propaganda, rhetoric, or trolling on the internet will change the truth. The truth is the truth, regardless if the masses accept it as is, or if it is accepted by only one out of billions. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. For more information, I'm your host, Ryan Gable. You can visit the website, thesecretteachings.info. Namaste.
The information presented is, you can take it as you will, but like we said before, to get into the positive aspect is to first be informed, and to second, if you want to make changes, start with yourself. You are a divine being, and you should realize that. So make those baby steps, and then if you're interested in a topic, whatever it is, life on Mars, whatever, Bigfoot, and start reading. Don't watch TV on it, because as we know from Mike Lebecki, that's distorted. These TV shows, of paranormal TV shows, are distorted lies. But I would read a lot of, and books can contain misinformation too, but if you read enough of them, you'll get, this guy said that, this guy said that, you'll get people that agree, that have done the real research, and you'll start to connect the dots, and then maybe you can grow from there.
If you awaken from this illusion and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life, you can feel yourself not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. I'm not trying to sell you on this idea in the sense of converting you to it. I want you to play with it. I want you to think of its possibilities. I'm not trying to prove it. I'm just putting it forward as a possibility of life to think about. So then, let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. And that you could, for example, have the power within one night to dream 75 years of time. Or any length of time you wanted to have. And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure conceived. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control. Well, something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? Then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have, of playing that you weren't God. Because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. So in this idea, then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality, not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that, only you're pretending you're not.
Hi, this is Chris Lisher. I'm an astrologer, an artist, and a radio show host, and I host my own show called Turning of the Wheel each Friday on Awakening Zone Radio. And I have been a guest today with Ryan and Mike on The Secret Teachings, and what a great time I've had. It's an excellent show. I really applaud these guys for doing what they're doing and pushing concepts and these great progressive thoughts forward. And that's been a great pleasure to be on your show today. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Karen Dahlman, author of The Spirit of Creativity, Embodying Your Soul's Passion, and my most recent book, The Spirits of Ouija, 4 Decades of Communication. And you are listening to the most awesome show, The Secret Teachings.
Anybody actually feel free, or do you kind of feel like that someone's watching you or somebody's following you, like I mentioned at the beginning of today's show? Do you just feel like you're not really free, even though you're given the image of it? That's what it seems like to me. This is Be Free by The Cult. I'm Ryan Gable. This is The Secret Teachings. Today on the show, we've talked about conformity in society, conformist consumers, and the trickster in relationship to false flag terror, and the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, December 7th of 1941. Pretty much everything you didn't learn in school, plus the concepts of critical thinking and individuality that's not taught in school, you get right here on The Secret Teachings. And I'm not teaching you, and I'm not preaching to you. I'm simply presenting to you. If you choose to believe it, believe it. If you don't, that's no problem to me. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just presenting the information to you. Again, thesecretteachings.info is the website. The show archive is available there. You can download all of our past episodes absolutely for free. You do not have to sign up. There's nothing that you have to pay. The website is there, and the show archive is absolutely free. The top news tab for all of the news that we talked about tonight, everything that we've discussed on the show today, from aliens and religion, surviving alien contact, NASA being in contact with extraterrestrials, Ebola hospitals, all these little things that really were kind of insignificant articles in terms of the bigger picture, but were interesting, like the limestone goddess of Venus that was found, and a combination of other articles that are available at thesecretteachings.info, like that massive rock that was carved by humans, the largest one supposedly ever found in Baalbek, Lebanon. Baal is, of course, the sun god, and it was now the location of the previous city of the sun, or Heliopolis, or Helio, like Sol or Solo, which is the sun, Sol Invictus, the sun god. All of the different sun symbolisms and the sun names there. Sometimes, when I look at this, I used to play sound clips all the time. I still love playing sound clips. Sometimes I just feel like this when we talk about these topics on the show. It just is like...
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes, because it just seems to me that the world is so crazy. How do people just not see this stuff? And I think it's because that clip I played with Mike D just a few minutes ago, about letting the information come to you, about getting to the positive through what's perceived as the negative. What's perceived as the negative is that Pythagorean why again. You can go to the left where the light is, where you think God is, but that's the deception by the trickster. If you go to the right through the darkness, it seems negative, but once you get through that negativity, you realize it's actually very positive, and that's where the true light is, that's where the true comprehension, that's where the true understanding, that's where the true reality sets in, and you can realize that you're not a slave. Although you're participating in your own enslavement, that you're not a slave, you are actually free, and like the cult song said, you can be free. See, everything I play here at The Secret Teachings, everything we do here is tied together. It's not random music, it's not a random topic. Everything ties together, and the underlying, what I said, manipulation theory, or M theory, my string theory, today has been the trickster tricking us and deceiving us and lying to us. And I think that the final thing that I could tell you today is, the next time somebody tells you something, including what I've told you today, go do your own research about it. Stop letting people tell you what to think, including myself. Do the research and do the math. Connect the dots between seemingly unconnected people, places, and events. And the world that seems so incredibly complex will actually begin to make much more sense. And I highly suggest that you take the right path of the Pythagorean why, and choose divine wisdom rather than earthly wisdom. If you choose divine wisdom, you'll see that the negativity is not negativity, it's not positivity, it just is. It's a state of tranquility. And to not have desires is a state of peace. This is The Secret Teachings. I'm your host, Ryan Gable. The website is thesecretteachings.info. And again, I please ask anybody out there to help support the show with a small donation on the website through PayPal. $10, and I'll send you a PDF copy of my book, The Grand Illusion, Slaves to Perception. That's through PayPal on thesecretteachings.info. Don't forget, also, every single Wednesday, I also host another show live with my good friend Michael Vera from Late Night in the Midlands, and that is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the LNM Radio Network. We also, I also do Late Night in the Midlands occasionally with Michael with a roundtable, or a lot of times I'll call in for a couple of hours with one of his guests, so you can find me there on LNM Radio Network. There's links to that at latenightinthemidlands.com, as well as thesecretteachings.info. And there's links from my website, basically, to all of the other websites from Michael, or darkmatterradio.net, where we air every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, of course, The Secret Teachings re-airs on Sundays on LNM at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Again, I am your host, Ryan Gable. This is The Secret Teachings. And I get a lot of requests for this, so I thought I would go ahead and play it to take us out for today. And apparently, if you can't find a job, the TSA is hiring. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week.
Help wanted. The TSA needs your help to protect America's national security. As a lightly trained TSA officer, you'll get a plastic badge. Oh yeah, you rock. But that's not all. No education needed. No IQ too low. Not even yours. And as a federal TSA officer, you get to harass everyone around you, just like you did in high school. Yo, check this out. You also get to feel some genitals. No, not your own. Other people's genitals. Plus, you're fully authorized by Janet Pat Napolitano. Undress innocent travelers where there are no security cameras and no limits to your awesome power. Your work environment is always comfortably warm thanks to the ionizing radiation being constantly emitted by X-ray machines and naked body scanners. But don't worry, even if you do get cancer, we've got government health care for you for all the psychiatric drugs that turn you into a complete psychopathic criminal. That's even more awesome. Hey, power-tripping pervs, do you enjoy undressing little boys and girls like a Penn State football coach? Do you like to detain U.S. senators? Do you appreciate portable electronics that slide easily into your pocket? Have you ever wanted to see what's really hiding in Grandma's diapers? Well, now's your chance, pervert scum. Join the TSA, and we'll give you a badge, a uniform, and an ego trip the size of the federal budget deficit. Plus, you'll get a paycheck denominated in fiat currency Federal Reserve notes. Oh yeah. In the TSA, you'll be working alongside 65,000 other fine men and women and perverts who represent the security elite, the last line of desperate defense against terrorists that are hiding everywhere. We think they might even be hiding in your underwear. So turn off the Xbox and put down those glazed donuts and stop masturbating to internet porn. Experience real-life porn with the naked body scanners only at TSA. That's right. Get out of your parents' basement and join the elite. Your country needs your help to destroy the Bill of Rights and secure our freedom. One scrotum at a time. Apply now, you pathetic loser. At TSA.gov.
There is a better radio show, beyond that which is known to the people. It is a radio show more informative than others, and as timeless as infinity. It is the equilibrium between light and dark, between the sheeple and the paranormal, and it is heard at the base of man's ignorance and at the summit of his knowledge. This is the radio show of imagination, a show we call The Secret Teachings.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.